Hello and welcome to another video. This is the 5th episode of the story in which the Kyuubi is sealed into Naruto's two younger sisters, driving a wedge between his family and himself for unknown reasons. See now as Naruto establishes himself by following his own path. This story is from Zodiac Aries. Make sure to support him, her. Like and subscribe to show your backing. Let's start this show. Minato, who is this whore? Kushina demanded as she turned to her husband. Minato gulped as he looked between the two women. I can explain, Kushina, the older blonde stated as he rolled his chair back a bit. Suddenly the intercom came to life. Hokage-sama, your daughter Yuri is here to see you, his receptionist informed them. Not now, I'm kind of busy at the moment. But sir, she insists, the receptionist reported. What is Yuri doing here? Naruto wondered to told the man on the other side of the intercom not to let the person in as he was having a very important conversation right now. Naruto turned his attention to the two women. Why are you here, you husband stealer? Kushina growled at Tsunako. Please, he was promised to me 15 years ago, Tsunako laughed. That made Naruto and Kushina's eyes widen in disbelief. 15 years ago? Kushina stuttered. But he and I were already dating during that time. How was the during that time engaged to you? By the laws of my village, not Ishiko village, we women are to go out and challenge men to a fight. If we beat them, we kill them. If they win, they have to marry us. The raven-haired beauty motioned to the blonde who was sinking back into his chair as Kushina glared at him. During one of his missions away from the village, I met up with him and challenged him to fight. He won. He promised himself to me after that, he even brought me to bed. This caused the red-haired woman to gasp, before turning to her husband. Is that true? Did you cheat on me? All the way back then? Kushina asked her husband. Of course not. I would never do that to you, Kushina. I love you. Minato protested, his voice getting louder with each sentence said. He then turned to Tsunako, who was laughing. And you get out of my office. I don't know who you are, but I don't want you destroying my family with your lies. But I am not lying, Minato Namikaze, Tsunako said with a firm voice. If you want proof, I can tell you something that someone who has seen you fully nude before would know. She then smiled at him. I usually don't say such vulgar things out loud, but right above your groin is a small scar in the shape of triangle. How did you know that? Kushina gasped. Just as I said, he took me to bed and I saw him entirely. You just seduced him, you bitch. Ladies, Naruto tired to get a word in to somehow stop the women. Can you two please not argue right now? Yes, for once I agree with Naruto, Minato stated. Please Kushina, calm down. Yes, calm down please. Tsunako-san, don't do anything outrageous. Keep away from husband, you loose whore, Kushina ground out. If you could please your man back then, he wouldn't have had to come to me for pleasure, Tsunako answered. I bet he goes to the brothel to get some loving. You bitch. Before Naruto or Minato could react, Kushina lunged. She punched Tsunako, who retaliated by kicking her out the window. I'll be back for you, Minato-sama, after I kill that woman you are married to. After that you can come back with me due to our little ordeal back then. With that the beauty jumped out the window after Kushina. Naruto and Minato were looking out the window and heard the sounds of a scuffle going on between the two women outside. It took a few moments before Naruto spoke up. Aren't you going to do something about this? He asked, looking towards Minato. I don't think I'm going to be able to stop them, since I am the reason they are fighting. Naruto showed his displeasure at the choice, but shook his head. I'll stop them if you're willing. Do give me one favor, not now, but sometime in the near future. Why should I do that, Naruto? Because this could be considered an S-rank mission. You don't want to get in the middle of a fight between your wife and some woman you cheated on her with. Getting into a cat fight like that is the death of any sane person. Minato thought it over and agreed. Fine, just stop them. Deal. The blonde then turned to the window outside. You heard that right, Ero-sensei. Hokage-sama owes me one favor. I hear that, kid, Jiraiya replied as he emerged. I'll got it recorded too. The old sage held up a tape recorder. Naruto then smiled at his former father, who scowled at the fact that he was tricked by a child and his mentor. Naruto gave his father a salute before jumping out the window. I'm going to need a drink after this, Minato muttered under his breath. How long have you been there? Jiraiya stepped into the room through the window. Since Kushina entered the room and debriefed you on her mission. Naruto waved at me before coming into the building. So care to tell me when one woman Minato decided to cheat on Kushina? The perverted man asked as he sat down on one of the couches. I'd rather not talk about it. Oh, I think you should. If you don't, who knows what will happen to your family. This caused the blonde to frown and open his mouth to explain the entire situation to Jiraiya. About how he met with a woman outside of the village, how he beat her in battle, and how he gave into his urges that night. All the while, Yuri was outside listening to what her father confessed. With Naruto, Naruto chased after the two women who were beating up each other as they ran throughout the village. If they don't stop, they'll probably destroy half of Konoha, he said to himself as he looked at the carnage left by the two women. Several stalls were broken, some housed had large chunks ripped off due to Tsunako's surprising amount of strength as she hurled those concrete blocks at them. He also noticed several ANBU on the floor, either hurt by the trying to stop them only to be hit and left lying on the floor, or being just getting hit by collateral damage. Naruto stopped chasing the women for a bit to order some of the ninja around. Stop following them. Naruto barked his order. Several chasing ninjas stopped and stared at Naruto. Uzumaki, most of the ANBU greeted. They all knelt before him as he looked at them. Unlike the ANBU, the lower-ranked ninjas stared in awe of the blonde in front of them. Most, if not all, of them had never met the fabled Shining Imprisoner in person. Some of the women swooned they saw him, while the men held a respect for the boy who made it into ANBU at the age of 13. If you guys keep chasing them, you'll end up getting hurt too. Now, I want half of you to take the injured to the hospital. He pointed to the left half of the group when he said this. I want a quarter of the remaining to make sure the civilians stay away from the Kushina-sama and her guest. While the last few take into account how much damage has been done to the village. What do we do about the pair though? A Jounin asked. I'll handle it. Now go. Hai Taicho, the ANBU shouted before reacting. The Jounin followed suit, with Chunin and Genin still looking in awe at the boy. Naruto smiled at them before motioning with his head to do their job. They nodded and moved to action as well. Just as Naruto was about to move, two figures landed next to him. One was Itachi and the other was Shursui. What's the situation? The older Uchiha asked. Kushina-sama and a visitor are having a dispute, Naruto informed them. Over what? Itachi questioned. The right to see who Hokage-sama belongs to. Both Uchiha raised an eyebrow at him. It's hard to explain since even I don't know all of the details myself. So what do you want us to do, Naruto? Naruto smacked his forehead before speaking again. Kami, that sounds so weird coming from you, Shisunai, Naruto whined. Next to him Itachi was nodding his head. Enough of that. I want you two to seal of the perimeter to make sure no one enters the training field 3. Why that field? Itachi asked. It's the closest one here and that's where I'll take those two to handle them. Got it. Both Uchihas jumped ahead to the training field Naruto spoke of and the blonde frowned. I really don't want to hurt Kushina-sama and Tsuneko-san, but I have to do what I need to do. Naruto made a cross sign with his hands and shouted. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A second Naruto appeared next to the original and nodded. Both of them turned on Raiton no Yoroi and sped off. The original grabbed Kushina by the waist mid-attack and the clone did the same with Tsunako. A few seconds later they found themselves in the training field that Naruto appointed. He gently dropped off both women to the ground but made sure to give enough distance between them and himself just in case they attack in their fury. He then saw Itachi and Shisui nodding towards him, confirming that they have sealed off the area to other people. The blonde then turned his attention to the two women, who were now glaring at him. "Naruto-kun, I care for you but please stay out of this fight," Kushina ground out. "Yes, little boy, do not interfere with us." Tsunako agreed. "After I kill this woman, I will be out of your hair." "Heh, like you can kill me, Tebane," the red-haired replied with a glare. The two women charged again, but this time Naruto appeared in between them. He placed a palm on Kushina's stomach, and a multitude of chains shot out and covered her. Doing the same with Tsunako as he slammed his other palm into her stomach. Both women were stopped for a moment, before Naruto pushed Tsunako to the right and Naruto pushed Kushina away. "Will you two stop this nonsense?" Naruto frowned. "No," both women shouted in return. Naruto's eyes widened since Tsunako tore through the chains just utilizing sheer force of strength, and Kushina using her own abilities with the technique to destroy them. The two of them charged and started attacking each other again. Note to self, strengthen chains against physically strong opponents. Frowning, the blonde knew that he wouldn't be able to stop them with the chains again if they were able to do that. He started doing hand seals as he watched the two women duke it out. Surprisingly enough, both women were even in terms of strength and were trading blows evenly. Not only that, their skills in kunais, senbon were even too. When they were throwing out jutsus they had cancelled each other out. Kushina, being a Suiton user, evened out against Tsunako's Futon jutsu. Ranton, Tenmu. Making an L shape with his right hand, he shot out two short beams of light from his fingers and hit both women mid-swing of their attacks. When they hit their marks, the two beams of light spread around both women's bodies, covering them completely in a crisscrossing pattern of lightning that seemed to tighten around their bodies, and then the ends of the flowing bolts had pierced and embedded themselves into the ground. "What is this?" Tsunako asked as she tried to struggle against the jutsu, only find the bolts of lightning tightening and shocking her. She struggled even more, causing the jutsu to react with more shocks and even more tightening. What surprised Naruto was that the woman let out a moan when that occurred. For a child you are rather kinky. I like it. Would you like to play with me later?" She smiled seductively at the boy. Kushina, for a reason she still could not fathom, growled at the fact that the woman had the gall to try and seduce her student, her Naruto. When she did that and tried to struggle, the binding ropes of lightning tightened around her and made her flinch in pain. As for the blonde, his reaction to the flirting was his palm meeting his face. "Why do I always manage to capture the women who like being tied up? First Mitarashi-san, then that other crazy woman from Kiri when I was near there, and now you." Naruto huffed. "Now I want both of you to stay there and calm down. I won't loosen up those techniques if you keep on fighting. I wouldn't mind if you tightened them a bit more," Tsunako said in a husky voice. Naruto had a sweat drop appear, for the woman was surely getting off his technique. "Okay." The blonde coughed to regain his bearings before speaking again. "Now, Tsunako-san, would mind explaining to me the full situation?" Kushina was about to open her mouth but Naruto glared at her, causing her to stop. "I would rather you not insult her right now, Kushina-sama. So if you would, please stay quiet." The tone he was using was the one reserved for members in his squad who were not listening. It was similar to one that a parent would use on a disobedient child. Just by hearing that tone, one that she never expected Naruto to use on her, Kushina kept quiet. The blonde then turned back towards Tsunako. Please, explain. I already explained it back in the office. In detail. The tone reappeared in his voice and Tsunako also flinched at it. Alright. 15 years ago, just as I said, I had met with Minato-sama on one of his missions. As it was, I was on the exact same mission. Which was just to exterminate a large group of bandits. So we decided to help each other out during that time. The mission was over fairly quickly, and we got our payments. It was after the mission that we got busy. Kushina growled again, but kept quiet. I challenged him to a battle and he won, thus making him the best choice of husband. This made the blonde raise an eyebrow at the woman. How so? The village I come from is highly maternal, where women rule. So when we go look for husbands outside of the village, we have to find one stronger than ourselves to breed strong heirs. Naruto nodded his head this time. I see. Now, can you please explain the part as to why you had sex with Hokage-sama? It must have been clear that he was dating someone, he must have said it at some point, he suggested. That's just it, he never told me he was in a relationship. He just had sex with me that night and left the following morning. Minato-sama left a note saying that he'll come back for me eventually. After a decade and a half, I decided to see if he was still alive and here I am. I really want him to be my husband, but seeing as he is married the only way I can get that is to kill the woman right there. Like hell I'll let you do that. Kushina shouted. Naruto sighed and shook his head. Walking over to Tsunako, he placed 2 fingers on the back of her neck. Pressing it and applying some chakra, several seal arrays appeared all to crawl out of the place he touched. It went under her clothes before they disappeared in a blue light. Naruto turned on his heels, walked over to Kushina and did the same thing. Naruto-kun? Sorry, Kushina-sama, this is a precaution, Naruto apologized. I don't want both of you killing each other. Until we get Hokage-sama's side of this discussion, I'm sealing off your chakras. He then smirked. And I know you can undo most seals, especially this one, but I made sure you can't break it, Kushina-sama. Without saying anything, he also took this time to study the seal on the back of her neck, the one place by her own husband. The chakra in it that had the seal going was so faint that it would be hard to trace. What surprised Naruto though was the amount of cracks on it. It seemed as if the seal was on the verge of breaking. How so? Kushina asked. It's an oral seal. It will only turn off if I say a certain phrase. He then walked in between the 2 women and looked at each of them with a mild glare. Now, I will take off the jutsu holding you down. Do not try to kill each other this time. Dropping the Ranton jutsu, the woman rubbed some sore spots where the lightning was too tight. Although the entire time Tsunako did this, she was smiling flirtatiously at Naruto. The blonde slapped his palm against his face again after seeing the smile. Now, will you 2 behave as he head back towards the tower? Both women nodded, although it seemed that Kushina's was more forced than anything. Good, Itachi, Shursui, you can head back now. Help anyone in the village that needs repairs. The 2 Uchiha's chakra disappeared a few seconds later. Let's go. As the blonde was leading them back, the 2 women were relatively calm. Although Naruto knew the seal would probably not hinder the fight between these 2 women, he was content with them following his orders. Tsunako was watching the blonde intently during the journey back, while Kushina was watching Tsunako with a glare. Tell me, Minato-sama's wife, who is that boy? He looks just like Minato-sama, is he your son? I have a name, it is Kushina, the redhead snapped. And no, he is not our son. Kushina felt a stab of sadness in her heart when she said that but was still confused as to why. He is ANBU captain, Naruto Uzumaki. He is my apprentice in Fuinjutsu. ANBU captain already? He is only like what, 12 years old? He is 13 and yes, he is a captain. He is just far stronger than most children his age. The redhead then glared at the woman again. Why? Trying to get him too? I am not sure, maybe. If he can beat me in a battle, I wouldn't mind giving up chasing Minato-sama for him. He may be young, but I can raise him to be a perfect husband. Besides, those odd chains and capturing techniques will surely liven up the bedroom once he is old enough. Tsunako smiled, and Kushina blushed. She never considered bondage, ever, not liking the idea of it. Now, that I think about it, I may just challenge him right after the little explanation, and take him away with me. Kushina growled again and was reading a scathing remark on how the woman was going to be a cradle robber, but she was interrupted when Naruto stopped. They were already in front of the Hokage tower and he looked at them. Let's get this over with. I want to go home and rest after this entire ordeal, Naruto sighed as he rubbed his temples. The trio made its way up towards the Hokage's office. Upon reaching the doors, Naruto was surprised to see Yuri eavesdropping. Yuri-sama, what are you doing? Listening in on your father's meetings again? The little blonde girl's head snapped up towards Naruto. She opened her mouth and closed it several times, unable to form a coherent sentence due to being caught eavesdropping. She settled for glaring at the blonde. I have the right to be here. I am the Hokage's daughter and I can go wherever I want. So do not go around commanding me, Uzumaki, Yuri scowled. Yuri-sama, go home. That commanding tone reappeared in his voice, and Yuri gulped. She felt like she was staring down her dad, but being the proud daughter of Minato Namikaze, she did not want to listen. No. You cannot command me like that. You're not my father, so I don't have to listen to you at all. But you have to listen to what your mother says. Naruto turned to Kushina. Isn't that right, Kushina-sama? Yuri turned her head towards her mother, who she just noticed for the first time. Oh, Okaya-san. Yuri-chan, go home please. Your father has very important business to speak of, and you're too young to understand it, Kushina suggested in a soft tone. Yuri opened her mouth to protest, but stopped herself. Hi, Okaya-san. Yuri walked past the trio and glared at Naruto. The blonde teen shook his head again, not liking that she would glare at him like that. You should really curb her ego, Kushina-sama, Naruto sighed. She thinks she's a big deal since she is the Hokage's daughter, when she is not. She keeps using that title of hers to go around and get free stuff from people, and get lesson from older shinobi. She also thinks she's better than the others in her class, when I know she is just mediocre. Naruto-kun, I won't let you insult my daughter in front of me, Kushina replied. I'm not insulting her, I'm telling the truth. She may be great in taijutsu, but her nin and genjutsu leave a lot to be desired. The blonde sighed and turned to Tsunako. I am sorry about that. It is fine, the raven-haired beauty smiled. Naruto opened the door to the room, to see Minato all alone staring at the desk. Hokage-sama, I have stopped the two as per our agreement. Alright, you may leave now, Naruto-san, Minato suggested towards the door. Naruto bowed and left the room, only to hop out the window and sit along the side of the window for the Hokage's office. Running chakra through his ears, Naruto listened in to the conversations. He could only catch pieces of the ensuing argument inside. Kushina shouting at Minato at his infidelity, Tsunako stating that she would give up on Minato because he had children already, Minato trying to save his sorry ass from his own wife's wrath. He knew it was wrong to do this, but he wasn't doing this for information. No, Naruto was standing guard there just in case Minato would do something harmful to the women. The argument kept going for a little longer, before he heard Tsunako leave, followed shortly by Kushina, who gave her husband parting words, namely, "You're sleeping in a hotel tonight." Naruto sighed before jumping off the ledge and landing on the ground. He dusted himself off, before deciding to walk home. As he was walking, he felt a presence following him, one that wasn't hiding herself so well. Tsuneko-san, I regret to tell you this, but I won't fight you. For one, I'm too young to get married, and two, I have a girlfriend. Ah, don't worry about it, Tsunako replied as she began to walk alongside him. I'll wait for you to break up to get you to come with me. The blonde shook his head. Besides, you are a little young for me. Although my friend has a daughter a few years younger than you. I don't think they'd be happy with that. Besides, what's the chances of me ever meeting with her? Rather high now that I will suggest you as a possible candidate. This caused the blonde to fight the urge to groan. Really, Tsuneko-san, I don't want you playing matchmaker for me. I found my first girlfriend, and I'm willing to find others if this one doesn't work out. Just, don't send violent women after me demanding that I give them children. I think I'd be scarred for life if that were to happen. Eyeing her, Naruto decided to voice out his concern. I heard you saying that you were not going to chase after Hokage-sama, since he had kids. Is that true? The woman laughed behind her hand. Heavens no. The reason I decided to stop chasing him was simple. When Naruto raised an eyebrow, motioning for her to continue, she smiled at him. He's proving to me what my village is sure of. Which is? Men are all corrupt individuals and are only looking out for themselves. She motioned towards the tower as they walked away from it. He used me to fulfill his desires since he was away from the village and his lover. He was willing to look out for himself and only himself. Not all men are like that, Naruto retorted. There are several around the world and in the past that have done things not for themselves but for the betterment of everyone around them. Like the Shodaime Hokage, and the legendary Rikudo Sennin. You can't tell me that you believe that all men are corrupt or evil. You have a point, but I never met these persons. She then looked at him with a critical eye. I mean, you may be like Minato-san as well, but we'll never know that until you show it in your actions. I am not like him, Naruto growled in reply. And it would be good to not associate me with him. He may be my leader, but he is not a person I respect. He then stared at her with some annoyance in his eyes, before it left, and he motioned towards a hotel within the city. Shall I walk you to your hotel? I would not mind that, Naruto. Oh, and, you could your chakra now. The seal came off when we were in the office. Oh. I did not feel it come off. You may not have felt it, but I'm sure Kushina-sama did. The phrase to unlock it was, as per our agreement. Time skip, a few hours later, after having dinner with Tsunade, Shizune and a visiting Jiraiya, Naruto was standing outside of the house waiting for his godfather. As the Toad Sage joined him, Naruto opened their discussion with one statement that caught Jiraiya off guard. Minato attacked me today, he said. He what? Jiraiya shouted. He attacked me. After I, partially, insulted him. That crazy bastard. What did he think he was doing by attacking you? Who knows? Naruto sighed. What are you going to do about it? I am doing nothing. I can't do anything about the situation I am in. Naruto sighed as he looked at his arm. He used both Hiraishin and Rasengan. If I didn't have Haruka's Miyabi and Raiton no Yoroi on, I would have been in the hospital, or the morgue. He then sighed and shook his head. Do you think you can look up any other cases infidelity Hokage-sama may have had? I can, but that won't take precedence to my duties to the village. It is fine. Just do what you can. If one appeared claiming to have some sort of affair with the man, I want you to find out if there are others like her. Jiraiya nodded. The blonde eyed his sensei and spoke again. You're taking his attack on me rather well. I'd rather not blow up right here. Don't want Tsunade getting all furious at me. Heh, you're so whipped. Hey, what can you say? It is women that rule the world, not men. Women. Namikaze's household, Kushina laid on her bed, alone, that night. She had meant it when she told Minato that he would sleep in a hotel after that whole ordeal. As of right now she couldn't trust him and had put up a privacy seal and a locking seal on the door. She made it a complex one that she had not taught Minato, to keep him out. The argument she had with him in the office was rather calm and sedated. When they got home, their argument escalated to a shouting match. They had put Tsubaki and Yuri to their rooms on the second to ensure that they would not hear or see what was happening on the first floor. So now, as she laid in bed, her thoughts kept turning back to their disagreement and his cheating on her. Sure, it may have happened well over a decade ago, but it still hurt to think that Minato cheated on her while she was dating him. She had been faithful to him every step of the way. She had loved him ever since he saved her from the Kyuubi ninjas when they were teens, and how does he repay her? By having sex with a woman behind her back. And that was one woman. After 15 years, who knows how many more are out there, she thought to herself. That made her heart sink a bit more. Has he been faithful to me as I have been with him, or has he been doing things behind my back all this time? Thinking that, she felt a stab of hurt in her chest. As she continued to dwell on those thoughts, she kept feeling more and more unsure of her relationship with her own husband. Soon she was twisting herself in a knot, literally and figuratively, as she tossed and turned on her bed. Slowly, her thoughts changed from one blonde to another as she tried to stop thinking about her husband. Her mind shifted to Naruto, and the way he spoke, commanded her that day. She would have never expected that from him. From all the times he spent with her during the weekends. During those times the boy was light-hearted, fun to be around, and was kind. He would soak up knowledge and show that he was really appreciative of what she was doing for him. But when he got into his commander mode, she was shocked. The fact that he spoke down to her and she obeyed was even more shocking. It was during that time when reality came crashing down, and showed that her Naruto wasn't just a boy wanting to learn but a skilled shinobi that demanded the respect of all those around him. Wait, my Naruto? When did I start thinking of Naruto-kun that way? She thought to herself. I shouldn't be thinking of the boy as my possession. He's a pupil, a friend, and a respected Uzumaki clan member. He's not like some sort of puppy you find and take home, nor is he my child. That gut-wrenching feeling reappeared again when she thought that. She brushed it off, but the nagging feeling inside her head told her she shouldn't. As she laid there now, she thought of all the times she had interacted with Naruto throughout those 5 years. She smiled fondly as she remembered all the times she helped him in learning Fuinjutsu. She remembered the one time where Naruto fell asleep while working, and ended up smudging his face with ink. Kushina then remembered the time Naruto first met up with Tsubaki and Yuri, as he bonded with them relatively well. Tsubaki seemed to have clung onto him after meeting him, while Yuri was partially afraid of him, due to the fact that he looked so much like Minato. Both girls kept coming to him during his sessions with her, whether it be to play around, Tsubaki, or question him, Yuri. The two girls were drawn to the blonde. Kushina would be lying to herself if she didn't say that spent almost all morning on Sunday counting off the minutes until Naruto would come to visit. His comings and goings to the Namikaze household had been some of the most fun she had in years. If they weren't learning, Naruto would be doing something that would be entertaining to her and the girls. Almost like how Minato would be before he delved too deep into his work. With that small thought, Kushina frowned. That one thought had led her to now compare the two men to each other. Their appearances were similar, were almost identical to each other, but it was in their personalities that was different. While Minato, over the course of the years after the birth of the twins, had started to become obsessed with work and partially neglecting the kids, Naruto had entered their lives and made it a more enjoyable life. The more Minato seemed to distance himself from their family, the more Naruto seemed to slowly worm his way in. Now as she slowly fell asleep, Kushina couldn't help but think that Naruto would be a perfect person for their family. With Minato, Minato couldn't help but frown as he paced the floor of his hotel room. True to her word, Kushina put up several seals to keep him out. Heck, she even threw out all his Hiraition kunais and erased all his emergency seals inside. He cursed that Tsunako woman for coming in and ruining his rather unstable life at the moment. The fact that Naruto was becoming more of a threat and coming closer to fulfill that prophecy made so long ago was one thing, now his wife is mad at him. He really couldn't blame anyone though. He was weak all those years ago. He wanted to ask Tsunako for help on how to learn to please a woman, so he can do those things to Kushina. He didn't think that whole rationale would bite him in the proverbial ass later on. Now, a good decade and a half later, the woman just had to appear and ruin what he had up. Sure, Naruto stopped her and Kushina from duking it out, but a city block or so was destroyed in their little match. Hell, Minato had to make up a story as to not arrest the woman, since she was starting to attach herself to Naruto. Now there was a name that made him mad. The blonde little punk was growing up too fast and too strong. The second prophecy about him would happen all too soon if he didn't do anything to curb that boy's progress. Not only that, he was getting too close to Kushina and the girls. Minato knew that the blonde loved them, as he should because he was their family, but he posed a threat to them. Naruto's strength would bring his enemies onto him and those close to him. That would make Naruto's presence around his family is a danger. Sadly, he forgot that he was an class ninja himself and would likely bring the same fate upon his family as Naruto would. Minato cursed himself even more. After all these years, the seal on Kushina is coming off, and with Naruto getting closer to her, soon her memories would come back to her and everything will fall apart. I have to do something about him, but what? Minato said to himself. Slowly, as he thought to himself, he turned towards the Uchiha district, the home of Naruto's strongest allies, and smiled slowly. He knew what he had to do. If anything, it would help him take care of those little pricks. They wouldn't listen to him, but they would listen to Naruto. If his long-banished son wanted to take over Konoha, the Uchiha would help. They made sure to voice out their like for him, and that he could use. All it would take is one night, and a squad of ANBU. A week after the whole Tsunako incident, everything went back to normal. People had returned to their jobs, Tsunako went home, and everything was just peachy keen. As Tsunade sat down in her office at the hospital in Konoha, she heard a knock on the door. Shizune, who was putting away papers into the filing cabinet next to it, opened the door. Naruto stepped inside and smiled at them. "Hey Bachan, Shizunini, how are you?" Naruto asked as he strolled in. He flashed a smile at Shizune, who smiled back, but there was the faintest hint of a blush on her cheeks. "Bored," Tsunade replied. "Your surrogate sister over there won't let me have any sake. There aren't many patients and not a lot of work today." The blonde woman then looked at Naruto with narrowed eyes. "Why are you here, brat?" Naruto walked up to Tsunade and threw an envelope onto the table. Tsunade raised an eyebrow before opening the envelope. It was full of Ryo, hundreds of thousands of it. "What is this for?" "You should go on vacation," the blonde replied with a smile. "You and Shizunini have done so much lately, all I ever see is you two running around. So, I asked the Hokage to give you a vacation for a week." "Really? How kind of you, Naruto-kun," Shizune cooed as she hugged him from behind. The blonde smiled back at her. "Are you going to be coming with us?" The boy shook his head. "Sorry, I've got a mission that day." "I see. Well, thanks for the gambling money, brat." Tsunade smirked. "We'll leave tomorrow." Naruto nodded before heading out the door, but before he did he gave Shizune a quick peck on the cheek, causing the girl to blush and stutter uncontrollably. Tsunade laughed at her apprentice as her surrogate son left the room. A few minutes later, when Shizune calmed down, Tsunade frowned. "Something doesn't feel right." "What do you mean, Tsunade-sama?" Shizune asked. "The kid wouldn't give us this much money just to go gambling." "Well, he does know about your terrible losing streak, so it would make sense that he'd give us enough money to last a few days." Tsunade balked, completely forgetting that she sucked at gambling. Be quiet, Shizun. We'll pack and leave tonight. No time like the present to get some more money. Even as she said this, Tsunade could not help the feeling that Naruto was up to something. Something that needed her to be out of the village. When Naruto was far away as possible, he popped into a cloud of smoke, revealing only to be a clone. Time skip, Naruto landed in front of a hotel in the small village of Tenzakagai. Looking around to make sure no one was following him, he entered the building. He smiled at the receptionist and spoke. "Hello, may I know which room Yuki Fujikaze is in?" he asked. "Sure, may I know who you are first?" the receptionist asked. "I'm her boyfriend." "Oh. I didn't know she had one." She then looked through the hotel's log before speaking again. "She is staying in room 2D. Thank you." Naruto turned and went up the stairs to the second floor and searched for the room. After finding it, he knocked on the door and waited patiently. "Coming," a girl's voice exclaimed. When the door opened, Naruto smiled at the person who opened it. Yuki had grown in the past 5 years. Her hair was now longer and she lost most of her baby fat. She was now only a few centimeters shorter than himself. She was dressed in a navy blue kimono that matched her now waist-length hair. "Naruto-kun." Yuki shouted in. "Greeting." She glomped him, and the blonde returned the hug. "What are you doing here? Can't I just come to visit my girlfriend?" Naruto asked as he gave her a peck on the cheek. Even though they had been dating for a while now, simple things like that caused both teens to blush. "Ah, Naruto-san, it is good to see you again," Sandayu greeted as he came towards the door. "Are you here to spend a weekend with Yuki again?" Naruto sighed before shaking his head. "No, I'm actually here to deliver some news." "What do you mean, Naruto-kun?" Yuki asked. She noticed the worry on his face. "Did something happen? Things are going really bad at Konoha right now. I'm not going to be able to see you for a long time." "Oh." The girl hung her head as she heard those words. "What's happening?" "I really can't say, but..." Naruto looked away before speaking again. "The Hokage has something big planned. Involving several ANBU captains. I'm on standby, so I'm going to be busy." He then smiled kindly at his girlfriend. "We can worry about that later though, let's just be together all of today, okay?" As he said that, Yuki looked at him and smiled. She gave him a kiss on the lips and nodded. Looking to Sandayu, Naruto spoke. "Any curfew today?" "It's Saturday, so just enjoy yourselves," the girl's manager told them. "Thank you, Sandayu." Yuki smiled at her guardian, and the two left, closing the door behind them. The old man was left smiling at the door the two left in. Ever since Naruto came into their lives, Yuki had been happier and more open about things. It was a godsend for him to arrive at their door, changing the closed-off princess to the girl she was now. I hope whatever is bothering him will pass over soon. He doesn't understand how much Yuki depends on him. Naruto is the only one keeping her happy most of the time. If he was to disappear, she may go back to her old ways again, Sandayu said to himself. Shaking his head, he went about his day cleaning the room. Sadly, for both Yuki and Sandayu, this will be the last they hear of Naruto Uzumaki for a long time. The events that will unfold during the following will ensure of that. The next day with Itachi. Good morning, Itachi greeted Ayame as he entered Ichiraku's ramen. The stand was currently empty save for the two family members running the shop, since it was past the lunch rush. The brown-haired girl beamed at her boyfriend for a week and went around the counter to hug him. Itachi returned it and gave her a small smile. How are you doing, Ayame-kun? I'm doing great. Business isn't so bad right now, the ramen shop waitress replied. What are you doing here, Itachi-kun? I was wondering, if you and your father would mind going away for a bit? A vacation if you would? Oh. What's this? Tucci asked as he wiped some bowls. Are you offering us a vacation? Yes, I'd be willing to pay for all your expenses. Itachi produced an envelope full of cash. But we couldn't do that, Itachi-kun. I exclaimed. We can't borrow your money. You're not borrowing it, I'm giving it to you. When the two family members stared at him uncertainly, Itachi let the desperation onto his face. Please, accept this. I don't know why, but I want you two to be out of here by tonight. Something big is going to happen, I'm not sure what, but it is going to happen. I have a feeling that you two need to be out of the village by then. And Tucci looked at each other before looking back at Itachi and nodding. Okay, Tucci replied. We'll go. Do you have any ideas to suggest on where should the two of us head? Naruto had Tsunadesima and Shizunsen head for Tenzakugai. You two should head there too. You should come back within the week, Itachi advised the father-daughter pair. The two nodded and Tucci closed down the shop to start packing. Stayed a bit longer staring at Itachi. Are you going to be okay, Itachi-kun? Asked. Itachi sighed and shook his head. His eyes were downcast as he spoke the next few words. I'm not sure, this may be the last we see of each other for a long time. He then placed a single kiss on her lips, causing the girl to blush. Go get ready. When I have time, I'll come find you. Tool hold you to it. Then turned around and left the boy alone in the room by himself. Itachi closed his eyes and sighed before leaving the building and using a shunshin to appear next to Naruto on top of the Hokage monument. The blonde had just returned from his little adventure with Yuki that happened the day before. So, did you evacuate everyone you cared about? Naruto asked as he looked at his favorite ramen shop. I can't evacuate my family, that would be suspicious. Those two I can, however, the shinobi don't know we are dating. At least, they don't know it yet. I hope to keep this in the dark, Itachi replied. He then looked at his partner. How about you? Did you evacuate those you needed to evacuate? I got Bachan and Nachan out, Naruto replied with a grim face. Jiraiya is out already spying again, and it's not like I can go to Hokagesima's house and ask his family to just up and leave. You really do not trust Hokagesima right now, huh? After his attack on me and all the shit that has been going down, not much. The two 13-year-olds stayed quiet as they looked over Konoha. The sun was at its highest and the two of them just watching the goings of the village. Naruto noticed that Hana, Izumo and Kotetsu were chasing after Tora, causing him to chuckle. He then smiled sadly. I know you love Konoha more than your family, but what, Naruto? If the village was to turn against you, would you still be faithful to it? Itachi eyed the blonde before sighing. I guess I still would. This place is my home and I'd do anything for it. He then smiled to himself. But if you get into trouble, I'll still follow you. We're partners, after all. Yeah, partners. Naruto then turned around to leave. Where are you going? Going to retrieve something that belongs to me. After that, Naruto used a lightning shunshin to leave the area. When he was gone, Itachi shivered. That foreboding feeling that the two felt a week ago was now really high. Whatever bad thing was going to happen, it was going to happen that night. With Naruto, the blonde found himself standing in Training Ground 44, also known as the Forest of Death. Using Haruka's Miyabi, the blonde made sure that no one else was around him. He really did not want to end up meeting Anko Mitarashi that day. That crazy snake woman would hinder what he needed to do in the forest. Naruto hopped over the fence and ran in the direction where he knew he needed to go. Drawing the sword on his back, he needed to make sure that all those things in his path would be killed, knowing just how dangerous the place was. A few minutes, and several carcasses, later Naruto ended up in front of a gigantic tree. The thing had large roots growing out from the ground, creating a cave of sorts under the bark. "I know you're in there," Naruto shouted. "Whoever you are. Apparently you marked me when I was younger, I want to know why." Time passed slowly, a minute then 2. After 3 minutes of waiting for a response, a large yellow furred paw appeared from the space in the tree. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw a lion, about 4 times his size, appear. It had a gray mane and one eye was scarred, leaving it half blind. Its large golden solitary eye stared at Naruto impassively. It took a whiff of the air then chuckled. "Ah, human, it is good to see you again," the beast spoke. "It is good to see you too, Lion-san. Thanks for helping me out all those years ago." "It was my pleasure. What may I do for you right now, young one?" "I'm just here to know why you marked me. Apparently I still smell of the saliva you put on me all those years ago, but for some reason I can't smell it." The lion stalked around the area the two were standing in, observing the blonde. "Why did I mark you? That is what you are asking, correct?" Naruto nodded. "The answer to that is quite simple. I see potential in you." "Potential?" "Yes, I see you going for in the world, doing things most people would not. Being the leader of men, the savior of lives, one who will rise above the others and rule all." The lion roared the last part, causing all the birds nearby to scatter. Even Naruto cringed at the loudness of the lion's roar. "But that is not all. I see the potential in you to not abuse that power. To be the gentle king, not the evil dictator most people become when they attain strength. I see that potential in you, that is why I marked you." "I see. How are you sure I won't really abuse the power I may obtain?" "I am not. I just see it, it is up to you on how everything goes." The lion stalked off back into the tree, only to come back out with a scroll. "I am willing to take that chance with you, child. Show me. Show me that I am not wrong with my choice. Sign our summon scroll and be the lion summoner." The lion dropped the scroll in front of Naruto. The blonde carefully walked up to it and opened it. Scrolling down it, he found that it was only signed by one previous person, Eiji Uzumaki. Now that confused Naruto a great bit, but he'd ask later. For now, he had a scroll to sign. Biting his thumb, Naruto wrote his name in blood alongside his fellow Uzumaki member before showing it to the large lion. "Is this fine?" Naruto asked. "Another Uzumaki, eh? You don't have the signature red hair, but nevertheless I welcome you, Naruto Uzumaki. I am Kinshir, leader of the Lion Summons. My clan and I are at your service." Naruto smiled. He had his own set of summons now. "For now I must go, I have been out in the human world far too long. I need some rest, visit my family again." "You go do that, but before you go I have a question for you." Kinshir stopped and looked at Naruto. "Who is Eiji Uzumaki?" The lion gave what seemed to be a smile before laughing. "He was our summoner until he made a contract with another set of animals," Kinshir replied. "However, while he was with us we called him by a title, the Implacable Emperor." After that, the lion disappeared in a giant plume of smoke, leaving Naruto by himself. "Emperor, huh? I wonder. Nightfall, what sort of lame-ass mission is this?" Naruto shouted as he and Itachi ran through a forest. "Deliver a message to a group of ninja? This is crank bullshit. Also, where is the rest of our squad? We could have made them do this. Something doesn't feel right," Itachi muttered as the two made their way across the forest. "Why would they send us away on a night mission like this?" "I hear you, something is definitely up right now." Naruto stopped immediately as he felt something enter his dome of air. Itachi 6 o'clock. Both boys dodged the shuriken aimed at them. "Katan, Hozenka no Jutsu." Itachi turned around and shot several fireballs into the canopy. The leaves burst into flames and several figures landed on the branch of a nearby tree. 10 Konoha Umbu were looking back at them. Why are you here? Naruto Uzumaki, you are convicted for conspiring to overthrow our current Hokage. Itachi Uchiha, you are convicted for being an accomplice to the Uzumaki-san, along with the rest of the Uchiha clan, the leader of the group stated. Under the Hokage's orders, you are both sentenced to death. When the ANBU moved, Itachi jumped back onto another tree branch, while Naruto dropped down and swung forward using the branch he was standing on. 5 of the ANBU went after Itachi while another 5 went after Naruto. Those going after Itachi were surprised when they stepped on the branch the duo were previously standing on. Kai! Naruto shouted as the branch exploded. 2 out of the 5 were sent to the forest floor, unconscious, while the other 3 managed to dodge the blast. Those following Naruto stopped for a moment to turn back towards their comrades, when 2 Senbon embedded themselves in the neck of 2 of them, knocking them out as well. Itachi led the trio of ANBU away from Naruto and stopped before doing a few hand seals. His Sharingan was ablaze and he focused on one of the shinobi after him. One of the ANBU stopped, finding himself trapped within a tree as sakura petals fell all around him. He knew he was in a jutsu, but it was already too late. An image of Itachi emerged from the tree and slammed a kunai into the man's head. Outside of the ANBU's mind, his partners saw the man collapse all of a sudden. Beware of genjutsus, one of them shouted. The 2 jumped into action and lunged at Itachi. When one of them saw that he was doing hand seals, he used Shunshin to appear behind the boy. I won't let you do another genjutsu. Bunshin Daibakuha. Itachi shouted. The clone then exploded, causing the man to slam through several trees. Righting himself on another branch, the ANBU felt something hit his solar plexus. He looked up to see Itachi glaring down at him. Sleep. The Uchiha placed a genjutsu on his opponent, dropped him onto the branch and drew his katana to ward off the 3rd member of the group attacking him. The 2 traded slashes for a couple of seconds, before Itachi dropped into a crouch and did a sweep kick. The ANBU member jumped to avoid it, but found handle of Itachi's katana flying towards his face. When it connected, the ANBU member tried to right himself but found that Itachi had grabbed him by the foot and slammed him against the tree trunk. A well-aimed punch to the throat knocking him out later. Naruto was faring just as well with his trio. Buraku Sheru. Naruto's right fist connected with the face of one ANBU member, cracking the porcelain mask and sending him spiraling through a tree branch and landing unconscious on the branch beneath it. He then turned around and caught the punch of another one of his opponents. Raitun, John. The blonde heavily toned down the power of the attack and sent him flying through the forest. The last member made 2 clones that went on the attack, in which Naruto managed to punch each of them, making them dispel rather easily. Naruto then disappeared in yellow blur only to appear right in front of the last member. His fingertips were placed onto the guy's chest. First stance, second style, Genbu, Black Tortoise. Naruto then did a 1-inch punch right onto the man's chest, embedding his opponent into the trunk of the tree and causing him to spit out blood. When he noticed the guy stop breathing, he felt worried. Placing 2 fingers onto his neck to feel a pulse, he was happy to find one, albeit weak. Itachi landed next to him and Naruto frowned. We need to hurry back. If what they said was right, your family is in trouble. Back in Konoha, the Uchiha clan compound was utterly silent, but that betrayed what was happening inside it. Throughout the entire compound a mass slaughter was occurring. Each and every Uchiha was being killed in the dead of night. This assault was being led by Kakashi Hatake and his junior Tenzo. They did not like what they were doing, but they must do it, for the better of Konoha. They were told to spare no one, not even the elders or children were to be left alive. Kia, an Uchiha woman, barely managed to get out when Kakashi shoved blade through her chest. Pulling it out, he saw his ninjas moving through the district. Senpai, this doesn't feel right, Tenzo told him as he appeared next to Kakashi. I know, but if what Minato-sensei said was true, Kakashi sighed, then these people were trying to do a coup, led by Uzumaki. I know the two did not get along, but for him to stage a coup against his own village? Well, someone from Iwagakure did it too. Tried to kill their Tsuchikage, maybe it's a new trend. Kakashi sighed again. Let's just get this over with. As the two stepped out of the building, a large ball of flames came straight at them. The two dodged and were surprised to see none other than Shisui standing in front of them. Next to him was the patron of the Uchiha clan, Fugaku. What is the meaning of this senseless massacre, Hatake? Fugaku demanded. Why are you killing my people? You are aiding a known criminal, Fugakusan, Minato said as he appeared in a flash of yellow. Helping Naruto Uzumaki try and overthrow my rule. Hokage-sama. Both Kakashi and Tenzo bowed their heads. Minato, what are you saying? Why would we betray Konoha? What reason would we, or Naruto for the matter, do that? Fugaku asked. It's rather obvious, isn't it? Minato replied. He hates me. He doesn't like me for what I am and what I did to him. If he overthrows me, he'll be able to rejoin the family without my interference. Minato took a step forward, causing the Uchiha duo to step back. Now, he had you guys following him rather easily, so he'd have an army just to pull this over my eyes. Luckily, I caught on to his little plan early enough so I can stop him. Are you insane? No, I'm just cautious. Fugaku right there and then knew that Minato would not listen to him. Looking at Shisui, he nodded and the boy used Shunshin to leave the area. Kakashi, Tenzo, go after him. Kill him if you need to. The two men looked at each other then nodded. They jumped after the wayward Uchiha, but were surprised that Fugaku got in their way. I will not let you get him. Fugaku ducked the flying kunai and jumped away just in time to dodge a well-placed Rasengan. He did, however, get caught by a punch on his chest. Go, I'll handle Fugaku. The two men nodded again and left. It's just you and me, Fugaku, so why don't you lay down and die peacefully? Fugaku scowled and glared at the Hokage. What happened to you, Minato? Fugaku asked. You've changed these past few years. What happened to the man who was my friend, the father of my son's best friend, the kind caring husband that his wife was too proud to have? What happened to you? Nothing happened to me. I just saw the world in a different light. A different light? You disowned your own son for no reason. You apparently cheated on your wife. You are committing a massacre of my clan just on illogical ideas you have in your head. Whatever light you are talking about, seems to be dark, Minato. You are not the great Hokage you were all those years ago. You have changed for the worse. Minato gave Fugaku a bored look and asked. Is your little speech done yet? The blonde asked. Because if it is. There was a yellow flash and the sound of metal cutting into flesh a second later. Fugaku looked down and saw that Minato's three-pronged kunai was stabbed deep into his gut, and he felt the blood oozing through his shirt. I'd like for you to just be quiet and die. The Hokage then pulled out the kunai out of the Uchiha patron. Oh, one last thing. Where is Mikoto and Sasuke? I'd like to save them. I mean, we wouldn't want the whole Sharingan to disappear, do we? I'll probably take Mikoto as a mistress and have Sasuke grow up with Kakashi. I mean, Itachi and Naruto should be dead on the forest floor by now. I sent several ANBU captains after them. Fugaku raised his head towards Minato and spat out blood onto the man's white cloak. The blonde glared before turning around to leave the dying man on his own. With Shisui, the Uchiha prodigy was easily handle the two ANBU members well. Using his speed, he was able to outmaneuver both Kakashi and Tenzo. He only managed to put glancing strikes onto the two of them, since both of them were just skilled as he was. Raikiri, lightning cutter. Kakashi shouted as his left hand was coated into a large amount of electricity. He burst forward with speed that matched sure sway. The Uchiha headed straight on towards the charging man, and ducked at the last minute using his Sharingan to predict where the attack would go. Slamming his palm into the man's chest, he sent him skidding back a few meters. Shursui had to jump back when several branches of wood erupted from the earth. Making use of his speed, Shursui appeared right in front of Tenzo and activated his Sharingan. Placing a genjutsu on the man with one order, kill Kakashi Hatake. Tenzo's eyes glazed over and he attacked the silver-haired man. Tenzo, what are you doing? Must kill Kakashi, Tenzo said in a zombie-like voice. As the two clashed, Shursui turned and rushed toward the main house where Fugaku and his family lived. Dashing through the building, he threw open the door. Mikoto-sama. Shursui shouted as he ran from room to room. Worry lit his face as he slid each door open, only to find her in the last room in the building. She was looking at him with wide eyes and was covering Sasuke with her hands. Mikoto-sama, we need to leave. What is happening out there? Mikoto demanded. Shursui walked in and hauled her up to her feet. Sasuke was whimpering as his mother carried him, despite being 7 years old. They're massacring everyone, the shinobi of Konoha think we betrayed them. Shursui was hurriedly leading them out of the building. Shursui poked his head out of the door and saw that no one was around. He felt around for a chakra signature and found none. Let's go now, Mikoto-sama. Just as he stepped out of the building, a three-pronged kunai fell from the sky and landed right in front of him. Using all of his body's reflexes, Shursui just barely managed to dodge the attack. Standing in front of them now was the Yondaime Hokage, with a very disarming smile on his face. Hello Mikoto-san, Sasuke-kun, how are you? Minato greeted. You monster. Why are you doing this? Mikoto demanded. In her arms, Sasuke was trembling. Shursui was looking around carefully, trying to find a way out with at least Mikoto and Sasuke surviving. Well, I would explain, but that would be like the 4th time I did that this night. I really don't want to repeat myself over and over again. He then smiled and strolled forward. Now if Shursui would just lay down and die, everything would be so much easier. I'll take both you and Sasuke in. I'll treat you as I would my wife, and I'll treat Sasuke as if he were my own son. What? You've gone mad, Minato. Mikoto shouted. Like I'd ever join you after what you did here. Besides, I would never leave Fugaku. Oh? Even though he's dead, you won't leave him? What? Mikoto's eyes widened and her body began to shake. When Sasuke heard that his father was dead, he started to cry. Yuri lying. Fugaku can't be dead. Oh, I'm pretty sure he is. I stabbed him rather well. You monster. Shursui shouted as he rushed over to attack. Minato used Hiration and disappeared. Shursui didn't even have time to react, for the Hokage teleported himself to the exact same spot and grabbed the boy's leg. The blonde monster then slammed him onto the ground, and stomped onto the man's knee, breaking it. The younger boy let out a scream of immense pain. Mikoto flinched and had to suppress the scream. She also turned Sasuke away and covering his ears. Let's see that speed yours now. Just to be sure though. Minato then smashed Shursui's other knee in. The young man let out another scream. Now, please just die. Minato raised up a kunai and brought it down upon the boy on the floor. Kudai no Ryu, Ninsho Giri, Emperor's style, burning slash. Several sickle-like blades of flame flew through the air towards Minato. The Hokage saw them coming and used Hiration to escape the assault. He reappeared onto top of the roof only to find a fist covered in flames millimeters away from his face. Then the punch connected, throwing the man through a concrete wall. Mikoto's eyes widened when Naruto dropped down next to her, his eyes full of anger. Then Itachi appeared as well, his eyes with the same fury as in Naruto's. "How is it? Most of the clan is dead," Itachi whispered. "Otosan is as well. The only ones left alive are the ones with us right now." The blonde saw both Mikoto and Sasuke trembling in fear, while Shisui was rolling in pain. "Get them out of here." The blonde looked at his partner. "Get them as far away as possible, while you do that I'll hold them off." "Naruto, don't," Mikoto stated. The blonde noticed the worry, desperation and fear in her voice as she spoke. "You're going to die if you stay. I know that. That won't stop me though. I need answers and the only one who will prove them are the Hokage. But that's suicide. It is my choice, Mikoto-sama. But Mikoto-sama, as your superior I order you to stand down and listen to what I say," Naruto roared. That made Mikoto recoil in shock as he shouted at her. His eyes were set in a firm stare and she could only nod at him. "Itachi, get them out of here." He then turned to the now crippled Shisui. "Do you think you can make it?" "With my legs broken, I don't think so. I think I'm going to die here," Shisui grunted. "Itachi, use one of your crow summons and come here." Itachi summoned a crow just like he was told and went over to Shisui. The older Uchiha reached over and grabbed his left eye. Naruto looked away as his older brother figure ripped out his own eye. Mikoto made a gagging noise as Shisui replaced the eye of the crow with his own. "This will help you out one day. Now kill me, I don't want to slow you guys down." Itachi sighed and closed his eye. Pulling the katana from his back, he stabbed his second best friend next to Naruto. Tears were pooling around Itachi's eyes, just as were Naruto's. The Uchiha teen rushed through several hand seals and burned the body. "Let's go, mother," Itachi told the last two remaining Uchiha. As Itachi started showing them out of the compound, Naruto saw several ANBU members approaching. "Itachi, don't forget our plan, okay? We'll meet up later," Naruto shouted out. His partner didn't say a thing but sped his family out. Naruto looked forward and was met by the glare of one Minato Namikaze. Next to him Kakashi and an unconscious Tenzo on his shoulder. "Ah, Naruto, you're stayed behind to let the others get away." "How noble of you," Minato sneered. "Wow, coming from you that sounds like an insult," he shot back. "So are you going to kill me now?" Naruto then turned his head in several directions. "I mean, I can't be able to escape with all these ANBU covering the greater part of the whole Uchiha district, no?" Hokage frowned, then did a motion with his hand, and several ninjas with masks appeared. "Wow, an entire platoon just for me? You must think of me as a big threat, huh, Minato team? How dare you speak to Hokage-sama like that, you traitor," one of the ninjas shouted. "Oh, you must have found out about my not-so-secret to take over Konoha, huh?" Naruto asked sarcastically, completely ignoring the other ninjas, only focusing on Minato. "But I do suggest that you kill me now. I mean, if you don't do so now, I may just escape." "You won't escape," Minato spoke. "I know. You won't. You want answers, so you'll stay right there, won't you? Heh. You know me that well, don't you? Must make you feel good to know your son all that well." The some of the newer ANBU members gasped and the Hokage narrowed his eyes. In less than a second he smashed his fist against Naruto's face. "Chain him up, seal his chakra and put him in cell. We're having a public execution tomorrow at noon," Minato stated in an even tone. "This will show those who are thinking of overthrowing me that I am not a person to mess around with." Naruto knew he was talking about Danzu, since there was some tension between those two as well. Naruto frowned but didn't fight against the people who descended upon him. Next day dawn, Naruto sat in rags with a chakra-suppressing seal on his neck. His eyes were closed as he sat in a dirty cell waiting for his own execution to begin. There were 2 guards standing outside of his small little prison. So far no one had come to visit him. He didn't mind though, most of the people he knew he made sure to stay away. That was why he was surprised when the door to the outside world was opened. His ears perked up as he heard footsteps coming towards his cell. When they stopped, he knew the person was in front of his cell. How could you? His Naruto, a female's voice echoed around him. It belonged to one Yugao Yuzuki. How could you and Itachi just betray Konoha? Naruto didn't open his eyes as he sat there listening. Answer me, Naruto. Don't you dare ignore me. He heard her start sobbing. Why would you two do this? You both loved Konoha, you both would have done anything for it. While she kept sobbing, the blonde said absolutely nothing. I looked up to both of you, he heard Yugao whisper. You two were my best friends and models of who I wanted to be, but then you go and do this, I don't know what to think anymore. The silence after that was only filled by her sobs. After a couple more minutes of that, he heard her whisper, "Goodbye, Naruto." When he heard her leave, Naruto let out a sigh. He would have responded, but he needed to focus at the moment. He needed to focus collecting himself before the time was up. While he kept meditating, he heard another set of footsteps. Open the cell, he heard another female voice command. But Kushina-sama. I said open the cell. Naruto heard fumbling before the rusted creaking of rusted iron filled the air. He heard the footsteps, felt the imposing figure's presence in front of him, even could feel the emotions of anger, sadness, and betrayal coming from the Namikaze woman. How long were you planning this? Kushina demanded. How long did you use me and my family to get closer to my husband? How could you play our emotions like that? Just as he did with Yugao, he remained silent. Answer me, damn it. Naruto felt a pressure hit the stone wall behind him, guessing that Kushina kicked it. Was it all a ploy? Just to get close to Minato? All the time we spent together, the care you showed for my daughters, was that all just an act? Did you not feel anything when you had spent time with me? When she was met with silence, Kushina growled. Her heart broke when she heard that Naruto, her student and friend, was staging a coup. She didn't want to believe it. She did not want to believe that the boy who had given her 5 of the best years in her life would do something like this. When Tsubaki found out, she locked herself in her room, and even Yuri, who butted heads with Naruto often, was saddened by the news. Was it all just a lie to them? Kushina spared Naruto, the 13-year-old criminal, one last glance before heading towards the opening. When she was about to leave, she heard his voice. Tsubaki's room, her desk, second drawer to the right, Naruto whispered. You'll find something of interest there. What? Kushina turned around, but the blonde was quiet again. Knowing that may have been the last time he would speak, she kept her words in her mind and headed home. Whatever he left behind must be important, or dangerous, so she needed to go there fast. Noon, Naruto found himself kneeling in front of the entire population of Konoha, atop a platform in front of the Hokage Tower. Several ANBU were situated around him and probably within the crowd, in case of any attempts at escape. There were 2 ninjas standing on either side of him, with blades at the ready. Behind him, on top of the tower, Naruto knew Minato was smirking down at him. People of Konoha, we gather her to execute a threat to our village. The traitorous ANBU captain, Naruto Uzumaki. Minato announced. Several boos were heard, but Naruto paid no mind. His eyes were scanning the crowd for familiar faces. He saw the shocked faces of Hana, Kotetsu, Izumo and their families. He saw his old friend Irika. Hell, he saw all his old classmates watching him on the stands. The blonde drowned out the speech that his old father was giving as he kept scanning the crowd. Danzu and Sarutobi were up front, both with disappointed faces, although at who he did not know. As he kept searching, he tried his hardest not to do anything stupid. He was only brought back to attention when one of the ANBU hit him. The Hokage asked you a question, he grunted. Naruto inclined his head towards his back. Any last words? Minato asked. I just have a question, Naruto stated. It was silent until Minato spoke again. I'll hear it. Good, my question is why all the dramatics? You could have just killed me yesterday and been done with. To show the world that they do not mess with Konoha. The crowd cheered, making Naruto roll his eyes. Then the blonde started to laugh manically. The crowd's cheering slowly died down as the blonde kept laughing harder. He's lost his mind, Minato told the ninjas. Kill him. As you wish, sir. The two ninjas raised their blades as Naruto took in a deep breath after his laugh. Ninpo, Shurshur Todoroki, Ninja Art, Lion's Roar. Naruto literally roared, with the sound being amplified in some odd way. Everyone around the platform fell to their knees holding their ears in pain for the sound was too loud. As people were struggling to get up, a pair of shuriken cut through the ropes that confined Naruto. The blonde saw a pair of Sharingan look at him before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. While people were still getting their bearing, Naruto punched one of the guards, grabbed a three-pronged kunai from their pouch and ran using his Raiton no Yoroi. As he made his way past all the people and avoided all the ninja, he made it to the southern gate without conflict. As he passed through the gate he threw the special kunai and placed his hands together. Rai Fuin, Lightning Seal. Erashur Fuin, Storm Seal. The gate and the surrounding walls were then electrified. The portal was then sealed off by a screen of Ranton chakra. Just as the seal finished being set up, Minato appeared behind the screen in a yellow flash. The man slammed a Rasengan into the screen but found it bouncing back. Don't bother, it will repel that move. I put it up there ages ago thinking that something like this would happen. Also the seals are on this side of the wall so you can't do much. And really? Did you think a simple chakra suppression seal would work on me? I was taught by Kushina and Jiraiya on sealing. Having that put on me was like a freaking water tattoo. Why call me here then, Naruto? If you were going to make an escape, it would be better if you had done so without me being here. Heck, you could have done it last night. Minato shouted. Why let yourself be captured? I needed to deliver a message, and get an answer to one question. Naruto then pointed at him. Who the fuck are you? What are you blabbering on about? I am Minato. That is bullshit. Who are you? Last night, when you got mad, your eyes turned red and into slits for a split second. Tell me who the fuck you are. I am Minato and no one else, you fool. Naruto then saw it happen again, for a split second his eyes turned red and feral. He also felt a demonic presence in him. Feeling almost like, the blonde's eyes widened. He really is Minato, but there is the presence of the Kyuubi in him, a rather angry part. Something happened that night, the night of the sealing went wrong. I can't do anything about right now. I need information. Naruto then frowned. I think it's time to go, but before I do. The blonde stretched out his right hand and surprisingly formed a Rasengan in it. How did you learn that? Minato asked. He knew the seal was fading, the crackling of the electricity was disappearing. Only a few more seconds, 2 minutes at the most. Jiraiya taught it to me, but Naruto put his arm out and the swirling blue ball turned into a white one. I created this. Ranton, Rasentehu, Storm Release, Spiraling Cannon. The spiraling mass of flowing lightning shot out of his palm and proceeded to decimate the entire gate, making it fall in on Minato. This caused the Hokage to jump back, and could only watch as the blonde left, but not before running a finger encased with futon chakra to make a scratch on his forehead protector. The next 2 days, by order of the Hokage, a new bingo book was made and mass-produced. In it 2 new names were added, Naruto Uzumaki and Itachi Uchiha. Both were listed as S-ranked ninjas and were put as kill on sight. Everyone within the elemental nations who were allies, even enemies when they got their hands on the bingo book, knew about them now. The two strongest ANBU captains of Konoha had managed to escape capture and were now Nukanons. With Kushina, Kushina waited a day before looking for the thing Naruto spoke about. Going into Tsubaki's room while the girl ate her lunch, she opened the drawer Naruto spoke about. Unrolling it, Kushina found a small note at the very beginning. Kushina-sama, if you have this, that means something bad happened to me. Then I beg you, to ignore whatever I have been accused by and apply some chakra and your blood onto the seal. I know that if you are reading this, chances are that you don't trust me, but please just do it this once. It took me 5 years to make with your help, so please do not let my effort go to waste. Naruto Kushina stared at the note and the scroll and debated about it. Should she trust the word of a now convicted criminal? After a few minutes of deliberation, she decided that she'd try out the seal. The red-headed woman still believed that there was some goodness in the heart of her student and friend. All right Naruto, I'll do it, she whispered to herself. Unfurling it even more, she found the place where to put her blood. Biting her thumb, she smeared it across the seal and focused some chakra on it. In that moment, everything went black. A few minutes later, Tsubaki found the unconscious woman on the floor of her bedroom. "Okaya-san," she shouted. Running up to her mother, Tsubaki shook her until she responded. Gray eyes slowly opened and looked at Tsubaki. "Okaya-san, are you all right?" "Tsubaki?" Kushina muttered. "Yeah, it is me. What happened?" "I applied some chakra into a scroll, then I blanked out." Suddenly something popped up into her head. Clutching it, she tried to will the headache away, but found she couldn't. She was assaulted by images, memories and all sorts of other things about a young blonde boy who looked no older than 5 years old. Her eyes slowly widened to the size of saucers. She remembered everything. Kushina remembered her son. It had been 4 days since the escape of the group from Konoha. Naruto, Itachi and the last remaining Uchiha clan members were all standing around an old Uchiha hideout. In there were several cats and humanoid ones as well. Naruto was leaning against the wall, his face deep in concentration, while Itachi was pacing. Mikoto and Sasuke were put into a bedroom, sleeping due to the shock of what occurred. Even though Mikoto was a jounin, she still was not prepared for the mass slaughter of her people. "So what do we do now?" Itachi asked. "How should I know? You're the one usually making the plans," Naruto sighed. "But I need to get into contact with some people, namely Sarutobijiji." "How are you going to do that?" Itachi asked. "They'll probably be monitoring all the couriers and all other modes of communication." The blonde pulled out a piece of paper and sighed again. "Let's hope that this paper I received from Kushina-sama a few months back will work." Naruto then placed the piece of paper on the table and Itachi stood over him. "What is it?" Well, Kushina-sama had given up making this seal that transported script from one place to another. She placed it on several pieces of paper and kept them in a drawer. One day, when I was looking through her seals, I found this. Sadly, it is still faulty and needs a lot of work. This is the best I can get to communicating with anyone in Konoha. "How many people did you give this paper to?" Itachi asked, completely intrigued by the idea. "I gave it to no one. I left them on several people's desks in their home. Tsunade, Jiji, Tsumsan to name a few. So far those are the only people I can trust. Hopefully this will work." "How do you send them to a specific piece?" "All of them are numbered. I kept number 1, the masterpiece. I just write the number in the top corner before writing what I need to write." "Interesting. Well, here goes nothing. Let us hope this works out well." Naruto grabbed a pen and wrote the number 3 on the top right corner, before writing his message. Back in Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed for the umpteenth time that day. He really wished that things had not gone as they had. He wished that Naruto was in Konoha still, for he missed his surrogate grandson. Things had not gone so well for the blonde boy, and Sarutobi was disheartened he didn't, do anything about it. He saw the changes in Minato occurring, but could not really do anything for the lack of evidence. The massacre that night before Naruto's failed execution was the farthest Minato had gone. When he came to the council about it, he had produced evidence of the Uchihas and Naruto's betrayal. The old man scoffed. If you could call letters between Naruto and the Uchiha clan about a coup evidence. Sarutobi couldn't call out Minato on that. The writing, from what he noticed, was Naruto's, but there were some words he'd never use. Nevertheless, almost all the people were convinced. Those within Naruto and Itachi's squad were struggling to cope with the fact that something like that happened, and Sarutobi knew something had to have changed their minds. Something occurred between the small time frame in which the two ANBU captains were sent on a mission and the time of the massacre. Not only that, for some odd reason all of the duo's close friends were believing the facts that Minato had showed. The old man was betting on corrupted Yamanaka's being paid off, but again he had no evidence. So here he was now at his desk in his home, wondering the fate of two boys and the family of one. As he sat there, he suddenly heard a tiny screeching noise coming from within the drawer of his desk. Curious, he opened it and found a parchment that seemed to be shining. Slowly grabbing the paper, he noted few words appearing on it. Hello, Sarada Bgi. Are you readin' tis? Now that surprised the old man. Where did Naruto get something like this, he thought. Grabbing a brush he wrote down the number 1 in the corner, then wrote down something. Naruto, is that really you? The former Hokage watched as the ink disappeared into the paper, then a few short minutes later some new words. Holy shit, tis actually works. Although grammar needs to get translated better from one paper to another. Yes, tis I Naruto. The old man smiled before his face became stern. The boy was on the run, and he was willing to contact him, albeit in such an odd fashion. The old man began to write again. Naruto, where are you? What is happening? Explain to me what is going on. Sarutobi watched as the ink disappeared, but waited several minutes before the response reappeared. This one was quite lengthy. Me and Itachi, I can't say where we are at the moment. Why are in hiding? Why are safe though? Listen, bad things are happening in Konoha. Hokage is not who Hai says Hai is. Something wrong happened during the sealing. Do not trust Haim. Protect Kuzinasama and daughters. Her memories should be back now. Make sure stays away from Minato. Keep them safe. Now that was rather informative. The Hokage's eyes were wide after translating and reading the words. Something was wrong with Minato. Kushina should have her memories back. Now things were starting to click in Sarutobi's head. Everything that has happened so far has been due to whatever happened during the sealing. His eyes then widened. Kushina could be in trouble right now. Naruto, I will be back later. I need to check on Kushina now. If anything, she and the girls may be in trouble. I'll contact you later. After writing that, Sarutobi hid the piece of paper hidden within a journal. He then placed it into the drawer and left his home. As to not appear suspicious, he only walked at a brisk pace. His eyes scanned the people as he walked. Even after a few days, the people were still in a frenzy about the two criminals who fled from Konoha. News of what happened was still being passed from person to person. The gossip usually was about how the one who led them was willing to get caught only to make a grand exit. Deciding to ignore them, Sarutobi headed towards the Namikaze household at a faster pace. As he arrived, he noted all the guards waiting at the doors and upon the roofs. When the ninja saw him, they moved aside and let him enter. He noted that there were a few Hyuga on the roofs to make sure that he was the real deal. As he entered the household, he noticed it was rather quiet. "Kushina," he called out. "Kushina, where are you?" "Hello, Hirazensama," Tsubaki greeted him. The red-haired girl had bags under her eyes and they were red, probably due to the crying. "What are you doing?" "I'm here to see your mother." "Where is she?" Okayasan locked herself in her room and activated the seals. "I think she's hiding from Otusan." The red-haired girl then looked at the old man. "Are you here to help her?" "In a way, yes." "Then please follow me." The little girl led him up the stairs and in front of a set of double doors. Standing in front of it was Yuri. "Mom, please open the door," the blonde begged. "You need to eat. It's been 2 days." From the other side of the door there was no noise at all. "Mom, please." When no response came again, Yuri sighed. Turning around, she saw that Sarutobi was with them. "Hirazensama," the blonde bowed. "You need to help my mom. She won't come out of her room." "I think I know how to fix this," the old man reassured her. He knocked on the door and spoke, "Kushina, it is me, Hiruzen. I need you to open the door." Again there was no response. "Don't worry, I'm not here on your husband's behalf. I came by another person's request." There was still nothing coming from the other side of the door. The old man then turned around and looked at the girls before sighing. This was the only thing that would make her open the door, but this will also shake the foundations on which the little girls have lived by. "Kushina, I have news about your son." Both Yuri and Tsubaki turned to each other with confused looks. They were both thinking the same thing: they had a brother? They then looked back at the door and saw it flash blue as the seals went down and Kushina barely opened it an inch. Her steel-gray eyes were staring Sarutobi straight in the face, hope in her eyes. "You know where he is?" she whispered. She saw the old man shake his head, and became dejected. "I do not know where he is, but I have made contact with him. That is why I need to speak to you." Kushina looked around before opening the door wider. "You are lucky I disabled all of the bugs here before you spoke, Hirazensama." The old man entered the room, along with the 2 girls who were rather curious about what this was all about. How come neither one of the parents spoke about their brother? Slowly Kushina closed the door and reapplied the seals again. "Now tell me, what do you know of my son? He is staying put at the moment at a safe place, but I don't know how long it will be before they do something again. He only told me to protect you and keep you away from Minato." "Keep me away from him? Keep me away from that monster?" Kushina demanded. "Why does my own son expect me to not get near the man who ruined my relationship with him? Why does he expect me to not rip the bastard a new one after all this time? Does my own son think I can't handle myself against my own husband? Does he not think I want to beat up the man who tore my only son away from my family? I'm not sure what your son was thinking when he said that, but I am sure it has something to do with the circumstances around Minato." "Oh, and what would that be?" "Something happened to him during the night of the sealing. He hasn't specified what yet, but it must have affected Minato, making him change to what he is now. Again, I couldn't let him explain, but I will find out later." He then nodded his head. "Your son is a rather resourceful boy. He took something from you and made it workable." "What do you mean?" Kushina asked, confused. "He contacted me using a piece of paper that sends words back and forth between 2 places. He said he got it from you." Kushina's eyes widened before she smiled slightly. "He really is a good kid." "You are right. I would not expect any less from Naruto." The 2 adults heard a gasp and remembered they were not alone in the room. Tsubaki was covering her mouth with her hands while Yuri looked like she was about to fall down due to shock. "Naruto-sama, is my brother?" Tsubaki gasped. "That man is my brother?" Yuri muttered. "Girls." Kushina spoke. What are you two talking about? Yuri shouted. How can that man be my brother? Sure, he looks like Dad and has your maiden name, but that is coincidence, right? I mean, I'm not related to a criminal, right? Yuri looked like she was having a breakdown. I can't be related to that man. He's too uptight, self-righteous, intrusive. She then pointed at her mother and Sarutobi. You too. Naruto must have fooled you two into believing that. My mother would never conspire against Dad. He's a good man and a great father. He tore your brother away from me when you were born. Kushina shouted back. 13 years being away from my son, 13 years. Do you know that your father put a seal on me that stowed away my memories of Naruto? 5 years of my life that was altered to not remembering having a child until you two came along. Kushina took a deep breath and saw that Yuri was close to tears due to all the shouting, while Tsubaki still seemed lost in thought. Don't get me wrong, Yuri, I love you girls. I love you with all my heart, but I love my son too. Then when he came back into my life I was so happy, even though I didn't know he was my son. Do you know how happy I felt then, even though my feelings for him were so confusing? I felt so happy. Something in me clicked when I met him again. Now that I see I've missed a few years of my son's life and I'm mad at the man who took him away from me. Kushina then took a deep breath again to calm herself down. She had started to cry a bit during her little speech. I know you girls are too young to understand what is going on, but you need to listen to me. Your father has been doing bad things for a while now. Things that have been hurting our family. Yuri was shaking her head no over and over again, not wanting to believe that her father, the greatest man she knew, would do something like that. Tsubaki on the other hand had a different reaction. She walked up to her mother, giving her a hug and a smile. This surprised all those present. I believe you, Okayasan, Tsubaki told her. I always had a feeling that Naruto-sama was related to us in a way. Her smile then widened. Besides, I always liked Naruto-sama, and Otusan feels odd. He's not like he used to be a while back. He's a bit more paranoid now. Tsubaki. I can't believe you're saying that too. How can you agree with all this craziness? How can you speak about Dad that way? Yuri shouted. I'm going to tell Dad. Yuri, don't tell your father this please, Kushina pleaded her. If he even gets any idea that I remember anything, he may start doing bad things to me again. Her eyes were begging her daughter. I don't want to forget anything again. Please, Yuri, don't do this. I'm still going to tell Dad. Just as the blonde girl was about to leave, Hiruzen used Shunshin to get behind her. He gave her a weak chop to the neck and knocked her out. The old man caught her before she hit the floor. What did you do to her? Tsubaki asked as she went to her sister. The former Hokage had placed her on the bed and looked at Kushina. I just knocked her out, Sarutobi replied. And Kushina, what are you going to do about Yuri? I could put a seal on her. Kushina sighed, but that would make me the same monster as my husband. I really don't want to do that to my own child. Then how will you keep her quiet? I don't know. The old man stayed quiet before nodding. I'll update Naruto on everything then. I'll also tell him that he can speak to you now. Thank you, Kushina smiled. The old man left after the seals went down again before being replied. As he left, Kushina looked back at her blonde daughter. What am I going to do with you? With Naruto, an hour later, Naruto stared at the piece of paper after the words notifying him that he can now speak to Kushina with barely any trouble. Of course the crappy words that would be going back and forth between them were annoying, but he could get over that easily. What he had to worry about though was Yuri. Yuri was apparently a daddy's girl, one that could mess up all the chances of freeing Kushina, the girls, and even Minato himself from whatever the hell is happening to the blonde man. Naruto looked around the hideout and noticed that Itachi went to check on his family. Naruto took a pen and slowly wrote the number 4 in the corner. Taking a deep breath, he wondered what he should write to his mother after all this time. Hello Kushina-sama, how are you? Naruto watched the ink disappear slowly and waited. The reply took minutes, about 20 minutes, to appear on his paper. Hello, Naruto-kun. I'm Finn, for Noah. How are you? The blonde smiled slowly, at least he knew the women would be okay. The only person who can get the paper would have been Kushina, since he hid it in a place where only she could go to, her underwear drawer. Naruto felt rather weird when he actually saw the type of underwear his mom wore, thongs, lace and a whole variety. Note to self, suppress memories of Okayasun's underwear. Do not need the images of her in just underwear running rampant in my mind, he thought to himself. Taking up the pen again he wrote down. I'm doing as well as I can be. I heard from Gigi that Yuri is being a handful again. She is. I don't know what to do with her. She'll come around eventually. Just keep working with her Kushina-sama. I will try. The messages stopped there for a few moments. This made Naruto wonder what was wrong. Naruto-kun. Yes Kushina-sama. Can you call me, Uchiha-san? Now that made Naruto's eyes widen. He really didn't expect her to ask that of him. He thought about it for a moment, before replying. Sure, but only here in our messages. If we ever see face to face again, you are going to be Kushina-sama. I don't think I can call you Uchiha-san to your face, no matter how much I want to. After 7 years of calling you Kushina-sama to your face, I don't think I can revert all that easily back to calling you Uchiha-san. I'll take what I can get, Naruto-kun. Thank you. You're welcome Uchiha-san. So off into the late afternoon the two of them spoke through the special paper to each other. Naruto explaining his reasons and theories about what had happened to Minato. It went well off into the night, and only had to stop when the cats had called Naruto for dinner. The blonde promised his mom that he would respond to her messages if he can, for starting tomorrow he'd be on the move. The next day, where are you heading Naruto? Itachi asked. His partner had packed up many things into several scrolls and a bag. Naruto was double-checking all his materials, nodding when he knew he had all the things he required to go. I'm heading east, towards Uzushio, the blonde explained. I'm going there to see if I can learn more about sealing, or at least find anything that can help me understand more. So far I can do several seals, chakra suppression, gravity, storage, explosive and several variations of all of them. Sadly, I'm not sure what I can do with more complicated seals. Hell, I'm glad the codebreaker seal I developed worked. The one you used to free Kushina-sama's memories? Yeah, that seal only had about a 60% chance of working out as of now. A 60% chance. What would have happened if it had failed? Naruto stopped packing some of his scrolls and looked at Itachi with a serious face. If it didn't work, let's just say, Kushina-sama would need more than a few trips to the hospital to get fixed up. He then shook his head. Man, that was one gamble I really didn't want to do just yet, but since I don't know when I'm going to be back in Konoha I had to risk it. I see. Itachi remained quiet until he asked his next question. What will we do about my Uchiha-san and Sasuke? The blonde raised an eyebrow at the words. Why you're not going to stay here with them? We are going to need funds if we want to survive. So I have to leave them alone for now. You can't leave them, they need you Itachi, Naruto frowned. But we will need money though, Itachi replied. We can't really separate them right now, just a few days after the whole massacre, you guys need each other right now. Naruto sighed. I'll be back though. After I find some things out at Uzushio and make sure it's habitable, I'll take them there and have them come with me. Of course, that means that you have to do as much as you can get with them. Itachi thought about it and then nodded. I'll give you 2 months to get there and back. Agreed. Naruto reached into his bag and pulled out one of the special script papers and handed it to Itachi. On it was the number 2. I'll keep in touch. Write if you need anything. Got it. Itachi and Naruto shook hands, before they gave each other a one-armed brotherly hug. See you around. Say goodbye to Okayasan as well. She'll worry about you, you know. I know. Hefting the bag over his shoulder, Naruto walked down the hallway towards the room Sasuke and Mikoto were sharing. He knocked on the door before calling out, Mikoto-sama, it's Naruto, may I come in? Go ahead, Mikoto's soft voice drifted in from the other side of the door. Opening the portal, Naruto looked inside and saw the woman sitting on the bed. She had bags under her eyes and she seemed to be lost in thought. Her hands were stroking Sasuke's hair as he slept on the bed. How are you, Naruto-kun? I should be asking you that, Naruto retorted. How are you and Sasuke holding up? I'm doing as well as I could be. I have seen death before, even those of my family. Her eyes then landed on Sasuke. Sasuke, on the other hand, has not seen anything like that. He is still in a heavy shock from all that happened. I'm sorry about all of this happening to you. It's my fault this all happened. Minato team was targeting me, and your family was really close to me. It's not your fault, Naruto-kun, Mikoto tried to reassure him. The man we know as Minato is no longer himself, that crazed look in his eyes, the change in his movements, the sadistic smile. Almost everything about him has changed. I saw that too. Naruto sighed. I have a hunch about what happened but I don't know what to do about the whole situation. Shaking his head, the blonde decided to continue on with what he had to say. That is not the reason I'm here right now. Oh, and what would that be, Naruto-kun? I'm going to go away for a bit. Go to Uzushio, see if I can find some things there that will help me learn new things. You're leaving us? Mikoto gasped. But don't worry, I'll be back soon, Mikoto-sama. I'm going there first to see if there is at least one livable place there, then I will come back and see if you and Sasuke are willing to live there with me. Itachi will be going in and out of the village doing missions as a nuke nin. I will be doing some of them too. Naruto, are you sure about this? I mean, you've been helping out our family for a while now. It's going to be weird seeing you leave. Don't worry, Mikoto-sama, Naruto smiled at her. I'll keep in touch. Itachi will show you how I'll do it. He then gave her a firm hug, one that she returned in earnest. She didn't want to lose anyone right now, especially after the whole business happening a few days ago, but she knew Naruto was stubborn and would do whatever he wanted. After releasing him, she gave him a sad smile. I'll miss you. Again, I'll keep in touch. The blonde stood and walked towards the door. Keep safe. Mikoto called out. I will. I hope you feel better when I get back, you and Sasuke both. With that, Naruto left the room and left the hideout a few moments later. He had a long journey ahead of him and his destination was the origins of the Uzumaki clan, Uzushio. Namikaze's household, Kushina was chopping vegetables for some dinner, a scowl messing up her beautiful face. Unlike the past few days, Minato had come home to sleep. Yuri was asleep. Her sister had put a simple genjutsu on her as to give Kushina time to gather her thoughts on what to say to the girl. Tsubaki was in her room, playing with a few dolls she had awaiting dinner. Minato was sitting at the dinner table reading a newspaper, trying to keep up with the times. Kushina sighed, covering the huff that she let out. She had promised Naruto that she wouldn't confront her husband. That made her mad and slightly put out, seeing as her own son underestimated her abilities. Sadly, she really wanted to know the circumstances behind whatever happened to her husband, especially since it had something to do with the Kyuubi and a messed up seal. Slowly, A smirk appeared on her face. Although, I never promised I couldn't get any information out of him, she thought to herself. Honey? Kushina called out. Yes, Kushina? Minato didn't put down the paper as he responded. I looked at Yuri and Tsubaki's seal today. And? I can't seem to remember what seal was put on them. I try to remember and my memory gets fuzzy. She looked over her shoulder after putting the vegetables into the broth for the soup. Turning around she saw that Minato had a dark look on his face. Why were you looking at the seal, Kushina? I was just wondering how it worked. I mean, I was unconscious during the whole thing, when Tsunade was healing me. So can you explain to me what seal you put on the girls? Minato closed his eyes and seemed to focus. Slowly he nodded. The seal I put on them is nameless at the moment and one that I created. It functions like this: the seal split the Kyuubi's chakra in half, into its yin and yang states. I had sealed the yin half into Tsubaki and the yang chakra into Yuri. This will have them specialize into genjutsu and taijutsu respectively. It also split the Kyuubi's conscience into two halves, although they are sealed away. Minato then opened his eyes and looked at his wife. Over time the seals will unlock, allowing the girls to use the Kyuubi's chakra. Is that good enough of an explanation for you, Kushina? The redhead nodded. Just one more question. I know most seals, complex seals such as that, usually need to have something to be given up in return for the sealing. Just like someone has to die to use the Shiki Fujin, dead demon-consuming seal, what did you have to give up for this seal? Minato looked at her, and for a split second his eyes turned red. I don't know what I gave up. To be honest, I didn't feel any different after using the seal. I see. Kushina then turned around to cut up some meat for their soup. Minato nodded his head once again and went back to reading the newspaper. Suddenly a knife tore through the papers and landed right between his legs, a few millimeters from his crotch. His eyes were wide and he saw Kushina looking rather embarrassed. Her hands were wet with the blood from the meat. I'm so sorry, honey, the knife slipped out of my hands. It is okay. Minato frowned at his paper. I think I'll go eat out tonight. The blonde man stood up, kissed Kushina on the cheek and then left the house. Kushina brought her hand towards her cheek and rubbed hard. She felt contaminated after feeling his lips touch her cheek. Naruto. 2 days later, Naruto was at the border of Hai no Kuni when he decided to take a break. During the first few days he traveled, the blonde decided that he had to change how he looked during his travels. So he dyed his hair black and used some makeup to cover the whisker marks on his cheeks. He knew that if he had used a henge, that some censors would notice him using a minute amount of chakra. So now, Naruto had decided to take a stop at a relatively large town on the shoreline. He didn't catch the name of the place, but he knew that it was a popular spot to go to for some people. There was a resort on the beach, several hot springs, a large shopping center and for those intellectually inclined a museum full of ancient artifacts. Now all of these places were fairly high class and guarded by samurai, so Naruto decided not to stay in any of the high-class places. He decided to stay in a cheaper hotel, while hiding most of his stuff in his bag. It would be another day of walking before he would reach the right port that headed offshore towards Uzushio, so Naruto decided to walk around the city for a day of rest. After eating lunch at a small cafe, Naruto decided to visit the museum. Making his way into the building, Naruto entered the building wary of the various ninjas and samurai walking around as well. The various artifacts in the museum came from several places, even from the major villages, some from Kirigakure, some from Kumogakure, and some from Konohagakure. That left Naruto wondering why the villages didn't come over and claim their artifacts, as well as steal the other artifacts. Shaking his head, Naruto was just surprised at the fact that no one would steal here. I wonder why no one has tried to steal the stuff in here. Naruto asked aloud. It's because the three major villages that contributed to this museum all agreed that they wouldn't steal the artifacts in the museum, a representative from the museum explained when he saw Naruto by himself. Really? I didn't know they did that. Most people don't. Also, all the artifacts in here only have historical value, not so much relevance to the ninja arts. Although there were some people who tried to steal a few items several times, although the samurai and/or visiting ninjas would stop them. I see, thank you. Naruto then turned around and continued to walk around the building. As he made his way through the building, he stopped in the weapons area. Most if not all the artifacts were hidden behind glass containers. Most of them were just regular katanas, spears and other weapons. Several people were walking around looking at the weapons alongside him. Every weapon in that room was a normal weapon, nothing out of the ordinary like the swords the seven swordsmen of the mist had. He stared at each of them, only giving them a glance. Just as Naruto passed by all of them, a particular started to glow dimly. It was a curved sword that was about 88 centimeters, nearly 3 feet in length. There was no guard on it and was designed oddly. The blade itself had markings on it, making it look like a feather, and the handle was short, making it a one-handed blade. At the tip of the handle, there was a sharp point on it. At the bottom of the side of the blade was a small insignia, a swirl within a circle. Sadly, Naruto didn't notice the glow nor paid the blade any mind. He also didn't hear the voice coming from the blade. Uzumaki. The voice whispered into the wind. Tsunade. It was night time and Tsunade was furious. She was on the way home from the small gambling trip, but she had already heard about the whole incident back at Konoha. When Tsunade found out about this, she broke down the walls at the casino they were currently at. She was stomping her way back home, going to demand from Minato what the hell was going on. The busty blonde was grumbling to herself all the way back and Shizun was scared for her. She was hugging Taunton to herself the entire way. Naruto-kun, why did you do this sort of thing? Shizun thought to herself. She had nearly broken down when she heard of the circumstances back home. She didn't believe that Naruto would have changed and gone nuke Nin, at least not without reason. That was what made her stop herself from crying that night she found out about massacre, the belief that Naruto had a perfectly good reason for all of these things happening. Kami, what was that brat thinking? Tsunade growled as they walked. I won't believe he went rogue, no matter what the freaking Hokage said. I agree, but being angry won't help him out, Tsunade-sama, Shizun told her. I know, but I can't help it. Something is wrong and I need to find out what. The blonde woman then frowned. Chances are Jiraiya already knows what is happening. Tsunade-sama, a voice called out. Shizun and Tsunade turned around to see Tuchi and Ayam walking up to them. Tuchi had a frown on his face, while Ayam had her head down. Tsunade-sama, Shizun-san heading back home? Yes, Tukazan, Shizun nodded. You two should have waited to travel in the morning though. It's not safe to be traveling at night. Well, Ayam wanted to hurry back home for answers. Shizun looked at the younger girl, who looked completely devastated. I guess you heard about what happened too then, Tukazan. The old man nodded, and they could hear Ayam starting to sniff. I can't believe either of those two boys would do anything like that, Tuchi replied. Those two are good boys, great boys. They love Konoha. They would never betray the village. But the news. Ayam muttered. Itachi said he felt something bad was going to happen, that's why he sent us away. Did he know something like this was going to happen? That he and Naruto would be forced out of the village? I don't know, Ayam-san, Shizun sighed. Tsunade had her brows furrowed, thinking about what could have happened back home. There must be a reason, and the boys must have had an inkling about what would have had happened. The question is, why did all of this happen? Tsunade theorized. There is always a reason for something like this happening. Usually underhanded tactics and bad politics. So what had occurred? That I can explain a little bit, a voice stated. Looking up, the group saw Jiraiya standing on a tree branch. Yo! Pervert, what are you doing here? Tsunade frowned. Heading back home as well. I was near Suna when I heard what happened. I turned around and ran all the way back here. I'm surprised I saw you taking this route though. Jiraiya jumped down and nodded to the group. But as I was saying, I know a little about why this is happening. Well, are you going to tell us? Tsunade growled. I will, just wait. He then turned to the two civilians. Tukazan, Ayamekan, I need you two to promise me that whatever is spoken between us remains between us. Got it? Of course, since it's about the safety Naruto and Itachi. We won't say a word, Tucci stated. Jiraiya nodded and then headed away from Konoha. Jiraiya-sama? Where are we going? Ayame asked. We're going to speak about this in a more secure location, Jiraiya told them. Speaking about important things like this requires us to be in private. Naruto's location. Naruto was asleep in his hotel room, and early the next morning he would leave and head off to the port closest to Uzushio. So he had a light dinner after walking around to rest, and here he was now asleep in bed. Boom! The blonde's eyes snapped open and looked around. Rubbing the sleep out of his eyes, he looked around and saw the clock. He had only fallen asleep at 10 and it was only 1 now. Only 3 hours of sleep, he frowned. He then put on a shirt and his sandals. Throwing the door open, he saw a fire at the museum. There was black smoke billowing high up into the air. He saw several ninjas heading towards the area, along with samurai. Hey you! Naruto shouted to a passing ninja. The forehead protector she had showed she was from the hot springs village that was to the north of where they were. What is going on here? Someone tried to steal something from the museum and then something exploded, the woman replied. You should stay there, kid. The woman then ran towards the fire. Naruto had to slap his forehead when she called him kid. Sometimes he forgot that he was still only 13 years old. Putting on a jacket, Naruto left his room after locking it. He headed towards the museum. The blonde knew that he shouldn't investigate, that it may cause Hunter Nin to see him. Sadly, he just couldn't do that, he would protect other people if he could. As he arrived, he was surprised at the scene. Several ninjas were on the floor bleeding, deep slices and cuts were on their bodies. The other ninjas were tending to the injured while others were rushing into the building. He heard shouts and screams coming from inside. Several bodies were thrown out of the hole. Those below Jounin level retreat, take the injured with you, a ninja commanded. Jounin and above, create a line to ensure the person will not escape this area. Several younger ninja grabbed the injured and hauled them away. Naruto walked forward slowly, approaching the opening in the wall. Hey kid, get back. Don't worry, I'm good, Naruto replied. He stalked forward. Suddenly he felt a pair of hands land on his shoulder. I said get back kid, the ninja commanded again. And I said his eyes widened as he felt something coming towards them. He pushed the ninja holding him back. That was a good thing too, because just as he did that, a person landed in between them and the feather-like blade slammed into the ground. Naruto had to draw a kunai to block the following attack. He stared at the person who was holding the blade. It was an old man, but that was not what caught Naruto's attention. It was the old man's eyes. They were blank and devoid of emotions. Uzumaki. The old man whispered. Uzumaki. The old man went on the assault again, and with surprising speed for an old man, managed to close the distance between both of them in an instant. Naruto blocked the blade with his kunai and did a palm thrust to the man's chest. The old man was shot backwards, but before he could be pushed far away he managed to nick Naruto's cheek, drawing some blood. I'm surprised he managed to get me, Naruto whispered as he grabbed his cheek. He then looked at the old man who started laughing. Ahahahahahaha, the old man laughed maniacally. The blade started to glow even a brighter white and left the man's hand. The old man fell to the floor and was caught by one of the remaining ninjas. The blade on the other hand kept floating and was glowing brighter by the second. "The hell?" a ninja stated from close by. All the ninjas present could feel the large collection of chakra in the blade. It started to react to Naruto's blood on it. Naruto could see seals being undone on it. The large amount chakra burst out from the floating blade. "Everyone back!" Naruto shouted as the energy enveloped the area. A large column of chakra lit up the night air. When it died down, everyone looked towards the sword. They were shocked to see the blade in somebody else's hand. The person holding it was man, roughly standing at 180 centimeters. He was wearing a black button-up polo shirt. He had white ninja pants with black dress shoes on his feet. Over his entire body was a white leather duster. He had slicked back red hair, very reminiscent of Kushina's. Slowly opening his eyes, it revealed steel-gray orbs that had a hint of excitement in them. Turning his head, the man stopped and looked at Naruto. "You," he pointed at Naruto, "you are the one with Uzumaki blood, aren't you?" "And what if I am?" Naruto responded. The man laughed and tapped the dull side of the blade against his right shoulder. "Funny, you don't have the trademark red hair. Although your hair is dyed for some reason, I can smell the chemicals. But who would have thought that an Uzumaki would get close to the quill blade?" The man muttered. He then smirked at Naruto. "Tell me, boy, how long has it been since the era of the foundation of the major villages?" "Why? Should I answer to you?" "Good answer, but I need to know so." The blade then shrunk to a size that of a feather from a bird. Chakra started to gather around the tip of the blade. In the air, the man wrote the character for truth in the air. What surprised Naruto was that the character was written in chakra. The man then tapped the character with the blade part of the sword. The character then turned into an arrow and he shot it at a random ninja. The ninja went rigid and his eyes went wide. "You, tell me, how many years has it been since the founding of the major villages?" About 100 years or so," the ninja muttered. "Thank you." The man then snapped his fingers and the person fainted. Several ninjas moved back a step. "What did you do to that man?" Naruto demanded. "Put a truth seal on them and then knock them out with the same seal." The man shrugged as the blade returned to its original length. "So that thing you wrote in the air was a seal?" "You bet." "Now, Uzumaki boy," the man cracked his neck. "Make this interesting." In the blink of an eye, the man was already in Naruto's personal space, the blade under Naruto's neck. The boy's eyes widened as he felt the blade on his neck. "I didn't even see him move. How did even he get past Harake's Miyabi? It is like he's not even here," Naruto thought to himself as he gulped. Naruto then turned on Raiden no Yoroi and tried doing a backhand, only to miss as the man moved out the way. Naruto ran after the man, but somehow, the man was able to keep with Naruto and keep dodging the boy's attacks with ease. "He's fast too." Naruto then felt something slash his chest and saw a cross on it, and blood dribbling from the cut. He looked at the man who had a smirk on his face and there was blood on his blade. "He can even cut through Raiden no Yoroi." "Just who are you?" Naruto demanded. "Isn't it polite to say your name first?" the man shot back. "Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto introduced himself with a glare. The man laughed at the face Naruto made. "You have the same glare my teammate had." The man then pointed to himself. "My name is Naoto Uzumaki, the Mad Doctor of Yuzu." "Actually, make that the spirit of the Mad Doctor." He then pointed his blade at Naruto. "Now, make this fight interesting." "Did you say spirit? As in ghosts?" Naruto stuttered as he stared at the man in front of him. You could stay that, Naoto replied. Why? Oh Kami. Naruto whispered. You are not real. Ghosts aren't real. After that the blonde let out ragged breaths as he stared at the man. Before anyone could blink, Naruto slapped himself across the face. Naoto looked on in amusement. Well, what was that about? Naoto asked. Sorry, had a fear of ghosts as a kid. Seeing one in front of me now kind of brought it back. Naruto then cracked his knuckles. Question though, if you are a ghost, how come I can feel you? Beat me and maybe I'll tell you. Cracking his neck, Naruto bit his thumb and swiped it over a bandage on his wrist. Out popped his katana. Turning on his Raiton no Yoroi, the two men disappeared in a blur of speed. The ninjas around the two could barely see the blurs that the two fighters were as they tried to follow the battle with their eyes. As the two moved around at speeds above those of normal humans, above normal shinobi, the blades clashed creating sparks with each hit. Naruto ducked a slice coming towards his head, and managed to block the following stab aimed at his gut. He then lashed out with a punch, which was evaded when the ghost just did a slight tilt to the side. Blue eyes widened when he saw a glowing green hand coming up towards him. He had to roll backwards in order to evade that one, but the hand managed to hit his shirt causing it to get cut. This caused the boy to frown. The two stopped in their fighting as Naruto studied the cut. Chakra scalpel, should have known you'd know that. You said you were a doctor after all. Naruto just smirked at him before shaking his head. The red-haired man then disappeared again, but this time Naruto was able to follow him. He had to reinforce Haruka's Miyabi to just feel even the slightest disturbances in the air around him. That was why he shoved an electrically charged elbow to the left, managing to hit the man for the first time. The attack, however, did barely anything to the man. All he did was right himself after hitting the ground once and smiled. Okay, that hurt, Naruto stated. In a second the blade turned back into the size of a quill and the ghost began to write in the air once again. Crap. I won't let you write down a seal. Naruto blasted forward intent on stopping the man, however his eyes were trained on the seal, trying to figure out what the man was going to write. It was rather sloppy as he wrote it, but Naruto saw the kanji for explosion appear in midair. Following that was the number 3. Even though Naruto was able to cross the gap between them within less than a second, the man wrote fast. The characters looked messy when he started writing them midair, but Naruto guessed that the quill blade fixes mistakes like that easily. So when Naruto arrived in front of the doctor, the characters transformed into 3 glowing discs and fell to the ground. The doctor then moved away from the area just as Naruto stepped on one disc. Shit. The ground where Naruto was exploded, covering the area in smoke and debris. Oh, come now Uzumaki boy, that wouldn't have killed you. That armor of yours would have protected you, or have gotten you out of the area. Naruto stared at the smoke for a couple of seconds, wondering where the blonde was. The redhead then felt a rumbling from underneath the ground and found several chains encasing him. Ho! Naruto then walked out of the smoke looking no worse than he had since beginning the match. The only things that seemed to have taken damage were his clothes. This is interesting, seems like you've got Eiji's ability to make chains. That's not all I can do. Naruto charged the fist holding the chains with lightning. Naruto let out a slight grunt as the lightning coursed through him before laughing. Not bad boy, not bad. However, chakra gathered around Naruto and the chains broke. I knew one of the first users of that technique. It won't stop me boy. Suddenly more words appeared behind the man. The word for gravity appeared above him, as well as the number 3. The characters turned into a small sphere and shot out a dome around them. Naruto was forced onto his knee, the gravity in the area tripling. The hell? I didn't even see you write that. Naruto demanded. He raised up his arm encased with both Raiton and Futon chakra to block the incoming attack. Using the Futon chakra to sharpen the lightning on his blade, he raised it up to block the incoming blade. Thanks to the boost with Raiton no Yoroi, he was able to move himself due to the increased weight. At the same moment he stabbed with his left arm. That was a bad decision on his part, for when he did, Naruto brought down his hand with the chakra scalpel onto Naruto's left shoulder. Even though there was no visible sign of a cut, Naruto felt his shoulder being lacerated. Not only that, the katana he had was broken in two. Naruto kicked Naoto's feet from under him and then jumped back. He tried raising his left arm but only felt pain instead. Damn! I severed the muscles in your shoulder. You won't be able to use that left arm of yours now. That and the fact that I destroyed your blade, how will you fight me now? I still have my right arm, I can still fight. Naruto then brought up his right hand and created a sphere of slow-moving electricity. Since it's harder to move due to your seal in the sky, I think I should add my own technique, shouldn't I? I had to learn this move without hand signs, but it worked out in the end. The sphere was then thrown up into the air as Naruto shouted. Rantun, Hoshi Hanabi, Storm Release, Star Fireworks. The orb stayed aloft for a few moments before it started shooting down rays of lightning onto the field. Naruto had to move out the way of several attacks, as the orb shoot out beams randomly. As the ghost looked at his opponent, he saw Naruto having to dance away from the move as well. You have no control over this attack, he asked as he rolled away from one of the beams. The moment it leaves my hand, I can't control this attack. Naruto swerved around one of the beams that were about to hit him. Naruto rolled his eyes and using his speed tried to close in on Naruto. The boy only smiled when he saw that. Slowly moving to the side, he lashed out with his good hand at a beam. Coming towards him, and it bounced away, hitting another beam and then another. The ricocheting motion led to the final attack hitting Naruto mid-step. Naruto was shot backwards from the attack, causing him to glare at the younger Uzumaki. I thought you couldn't control it when it left your hands? The response he got was a shrug of the shoulders. Naruto then minimized the blade again and wrote the character for smoke. From the blade, smoke was emitted, covering the area and rendering most sight useless. Naruto's Hokage Miyabi still allowed him to feel where most of the people were and where the random attacks from his own jutsu were going to fall. That was why he ducked and kicked backwards, hitting a beam, which smacked into Naruto. After that though, Naruto felt a slash on his back but felt no blood. Another damn slice from his chakra scalpel. Damn, he recovers fast, he thought to himself, his speed is increasing too. Plus the fact that the gravity is harsher is putting a toll on me. I need to end this now. Looking around, Naruto found something that gave him an idea. He rushed towards a part of the smoke-covered, lightning-rained battlefield and slid to a spot. Just as he finished sliding, Naruto fell on top of him with his blade penetrating his gut. Gah! Naruto coughed up blood. How the hell does he keep cutting through the Raiden no Yoroi? I haven't seen anyone be able to do that yet. No matter, he's right where I want him. Looking above him, Naruto saw Naruto, straddling him with his right hand poised to strike, leaving the blade in his gut. Surprisingly, for a boy who was thrust into battle against an opponent you had no information about, you did surprisingly well, Naruto complimented him. Naruto watched as the wounds healed on the ghost's physical form and Naruto noticed it too. I know you're wondering why I'm healing, but since you're going to die right here and now, I won't tell you. Goodbye, Naruto Uzumaki boy. Naruto knew this was his moment. Just when Naruto was about to strike, several chains burst forth from his body and snared Naruto, halting his movements. Futon, Shinkugyo. Naruto inhaled and exhaled a sphere of concentrated chakra, catching Naruto in between the eyes. Then he raised his right hand, stabbed the man in the temple. Naruto wondered what hit him, and when Naruto's hand fell he got his answer. The broken piece of his katana was in his hands. Naoto looked baffled until he started to laugh. Ha ha ha. That was a good show, boy, you sure made this interesting. All of a sudden the gravity returned to normal, the smoke disappeared and Naoto seemed to vanish. This left Naruto lying down on the ground in pain, with the quill blade still stabbed into his gut. Slowly he lost consciousness and heard the rest of the shinobi who were watching coming closer. Why didn't they do anything to help me? He thought to himself. Oh, that's right, I'm wanted. They probably want my head. Naruto then lost consciousness. As he did, several ninjas were getting closer to him. Contain the boy, I want to bring him to Konoha and retrieve our reward. If the price of his head alive wasn't so high, I'd say we kill him right now, a ninja from Konoha told them. When they approached, the quill blade suddenly lifted itself from Naruto's body. This forced the people to stop walking. Naoto reappeared fully healed and a scowl on his face. The spirit leered at all the people before picking up Naruto and hefting him over his shoulder. Put him down. I don't think so. This boy, I need him for something. So, he and I will be taking our leave, Naoto responded. He lifted up the quill blade and wrote down the character for gravity again and then wrote the number 5 right after that. Once again, it flew up into the air and created a small invisible dome around them. Everyone fell to the ground, not even being able to lift themselves up due to the gravity being increased 5 times normal. Naoto turned and took his leave carrying the unconscious Naruto with him. It would be another few minutes before the gravity seal would wear off on the area, but by then the two would be long gone. Time skip, Naruto opened his eyes and found himself within a forest. It was light out already and he felt a bit woozy. He tried to sit up from the ground. He only winced in pain as he grabbed his side. What the? He asked himself. Looking down he saw that he was bandaged around the waist and his left shoulder. You shouldn't move around too much, you'll reopen your wound, a voice to the side told him. Naruto's head snapped to the direction of the voice and saw Naoto looking at the stars. That was when everything came rushing back to him. The memories of the fight and how Naruto barely won. Time really has flown, huh? It's really been that long since my death. The red-headed spirit then turned towards Naruto. Your stuff is behind the tree next to you. I picked it up on our escape from that village. What? Naruto shook his head, and then looked at Naoto again. Now that he looked at him, he noticed that the man was more transparent compared to the events that unfolded the night before. We had to escape the village. Apparently, you're a new Knin. Never knew that a traitorous Uzumaki before. We're usually loyal to the people we work with. Naoto then stood up and walked over to Naruto. I couldn't fully heal you. I used up too much chakra last night so I did what I could. Naruto remained silent trying to comprehend what in the world was happening. Then he looked at Naoto with narrowed eyes. Why aren't you trying to kill me right now? Why should I? Yesterday, I just need to stretch my legs. Naoto replied. Besides, if I were still alive you would have beaten me more easily. Being a spirit let me take a beating from you though. Okay, I am still so confused. Can you explain to me what is going on? What is up with you and the whole spirit thing? To be perfectly honest, I'm still creeped out about you being transparent. Give me something to work with, like you said I'm new to this whole thing. I guess I can give you that. Let me start with who I am. I am Naoto Uzumaki, the mad doctor of Yuzu. Why did they call you that? Naruto asked. The man smiled. It was because most of the medical practices I thought up of were rather out there. I did not dabble in human experimentation. That is just not my style. I just had a tendency to do things most people would never think of. Like putting seals on a man's leg to keep it together long enough so I can actually do surgery on it. Or doing something like giving a certain poison to counteract another one. Things like that, were what considered me mad. My ideas at the time were too uncommon for people. Naoto then smirked. That and the fact that I keep threatening to gut people's stomach out with a rust scalpel tends to scare away a lot of people. I see. Naruto nodded. Back then thoughts like that were what got people in trouble, or just outright ignored. Just like the story of Tsunade suggesting a 4-man team with a medic in it was rejected, something that only a fool would have thought of. Naruto then turned to Naoto again. So tell me, why is your spirit in the quill blade? Not only that, but what are you really? Naoto sat down on a stone across from Naruto. How he did that had Naruto wondering. What I am is simple really. I am a mass of chakra that can take a physical form, similar to that of the bijus. My thoughts, personality, and memories have been stored into the quill blade. In all essence I am here as a spirit, but I can't use too much chakra or else I'd be sealed away again for a long time. He then smirked at Naruto. If I were still alive, you would have killed me faster than that of last night. Your attacks really hurt. The fact that I was only a physical form of chakra was what saved me of losing the fight to you so early on. What? You put up such a good fight though. I'm a doctor. Sure, I may be a ninja and a field doctor as well, but I cannot fight against heavy hitters like you for a long time. The only reason I had put up such a fight was because I couldn't really felt the pain. Naruto thought about it then slowly nodded his head. I guess. Naruto then sighed. Well, thanks for the info and all, but why are you still here? You can say that I can't pass on until I leave my knowledge with a disciple. When Naruto raised his brow at that, Naoto shook his head. All in all, my spirit can't go to rest until the fact that I pass on my jutsus and knowledge to a person. So until then, my spirit/chakra, whatever you may call it, is stuck to the quill blade. So what am I going to be your disciple? Naruto asked. Nope. What? You already chose a path. From what I've seen, you're already following another path. Naoto then looked at Naruto. Now it's time for you to answer a question from me. Which is? What has happened to Uzushio? Naoto asked. What do you mean by that? Naruto asked. I'm sure you're a nukenin from Konoha. Meaning that something must have happened to Yuzu if you were working with them. The only previous person I saw from Yuzu who went to Konoha was Maida-sama. Most, if not all, Uzumakis would have stayed in Yuzu where it was safe. So tell me what has happened. Naruto thought about it before sighing. A couple decades ago, too, if I'm right, Uzushio was destroyed. It was mix of natural disasters and a joint effort of Iwagakure and Mizugakure that destroyed the village. When they were recuperating during the Second Ninja War, they struck, thus destroying the village and scattering its people all over the elemental nations. I see. Naoto nodded. How many of them are in Konoha, seeing as we had the strongest ties with that village? When I left, 3 were the only ones there. My ex-family are the only Uzumakis left there. Although, they have taken up the name of Namikaze. Naruto ran his hand through his hair, taking off the black dye and revealing his blonde hair. I look just like my father, to be honest. You really don't have the trademark red hair. Naoto noted. That caused the blonde to roll his eyes. So what are you doing out here? I'm heading to Yuzu to see if there are still some scrolls, books, tomes, or whatever about Fuinjutsu is left. Why so? Did your family not teach you about sealing? Oh, they did, but I need to know more. I am nowhere near the Fuinjutsu master my opponent is, so I need to learn more. I see. Naoto nodded his head. I'll help you. Really? You may not be my pupil, but I will lend you my help. That, and I'm stuck with you since the quill blade is now yours. Naoto nodded to himself. If Uzushio was destroyed, then I am sure that those who attacked had missed one place in the village. What are you talking about? My team and I had sealed off a place in Uzushio before our deaths in the First Ninja World War. It is full of the knowledge of Yuzu. My team and I called it the Vault. That made Naruto frown. Wouldn't that have been the first place to be looted of all their things? Not exactly. The people of the village can deposit information into the vault easily. Naruto opened his mouth to explain before closing it. Actually, I don't think I'll explain the procedure on how to do that, it is much better to see it. But going back to the point, the reason why no one can enter the vault is because you need 2 keys to open it. Raising up a finger, Naruto explained, the first key is the quill blade within your hand. Raising up another finger, Naruto continued. The second key belonged to a teammate of mine. His name was Kuga Uzumaki. You're going need to find his duster. Really? Naruto raised an eyebrow. I need to find a century-old duster or so. Trust me, you will need it if you want to get into the vault. Fine, Naruto sighed. Do you know which way it is? Naruto closed his eyes and sent out a large pulse of chakra. The blonde noticed that it caused Naruto to become even more transparent. He waited a couple of seconds before he felt another pulse of chakra come back towards them. The red-haired spirit opened his eyes before speaking. It's all the way in IWA. This caused the blonde to let out a groan. Damn, that means I have to trek back through Hai no Kuni. After saying that, Naruto let out a yawn. Take a rest, boy. I'll watch and inform you of anything going on. You're still pretty injured after all. The blonde nodded and closed his eyes to go to sleep, leaving Naruto time to think. When he was sure the boy was asleep, Naruto smirked, he doesn't need to know that I took it too easy on him as well. If I decided to fight seriously, I would have used all the poisons I knew of, aimed for his eyes and use all my knowledge on the anatomy of a human body. I would have taken the opportunity during the fight when I got through his armor and decapitated him. Again, he doesn't need to know about that. The spirit then looked at Naruto again. Sadly, Kuga won't go easy when he arrives to claim the duster. That man never knew how to hold back after all, and with him just being a chakra construct like myself, that battle is going to be hard on boy. In Kyuubi, A sat in his chair, his face impassive as he looked at the news he had received, or rather the bingo book on his desk. The page was turned to the S-class section. So far only 3 names were on there. That were from Konoha, Orochimaru of the Sannin, and the 2 added yesterday, Itachi Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. Looking up from his desk, he looked at the team standing in front of him. It was Darui, C, and Yujito. All of them had grown over the years, although they looked rather similar to the way they were back then. Darui had a sleeveless black shirt and shorts on. His blonde hair had grown out and the fringe of his bangs covered one eye. C had similar clothing except had some white armor on the front. He had his headband on his head and black fingerless gloves on. Yujito had done her hair in a long ponytail that reached her waist. She wore a black and purple shirt with a matching pair of bicycle shorts. Over the past few years her brown hair had turned blonde. "You called us Raikage-sama?" C asked amicably. He was happy to be called in. He was now a chunin and was willing to do whatever it took to keep going up in the ranks. Probably for another dull mission, Darui sighed. Just like his friend, he too had become a chunin, but unlike his friend, his promotion test for becoming jounin was within the next few weeks. Despite his rather unenthusiastic attitude on the outside, Darui was rather excited about the prospect of becoming a jounin on the inside. "Both of you please be quiet, Raikage-sama is going to speak," Yujito reprimanded her 2 juniors. While their jounin sensei wasn't around, Darui was usually in charge, but the moment he and C start talking about some matters, Yujito had to step in and calm them down. She then turned to the leader of the village. "What is it that you want us to do, Raikage-sama?" I was originally just going to ask some of the ANBU to do this mission. A started to speak as he looked at the trio of teens, use their force to seek these 2 out, but I had a change of heart. He turned the bingo book towards the team of young ninja and their eyes went wide. C let out a whistle when he saw the picture of both Naruto and Itachi. You have got to be kidding me, right? C asked. Those two went nuke-nin? That's a rather incredible to happen. I agree, Darui frowned. I would have never expected to see this happen. I mean, those two seem to be so loyal to Konoha. There must have been a reason for this. Darui then looked at the information on the two and raised an eyebrow. S-class, kill on sight, the price on their heads is in the 100 millions. It seems Konoha has spared nothing to want people to go against them, Yujito muttered. Although, I'm not sure that anyone could really beat them. If the stories are true, those two were some of the strongest in the Konoha ANBU in years, ever since Kakashi Hatake. Exactly, that is why I am sending you three out to get them, A stated confidently. That caused the trio to look at him. The looks of confusion on their faces were rather priceless, and if A had a camera he would have taken a picture. I want you to go to those two and ask them to join Kumo. Sir, we are only 3 chunin, yet you expect us to convince us to somehow fight them and convince them to join us. How would we able to do that? Yujito asked. You are not going to fight them, you'd probably die against just one of them. Against both of them you'd probably be turned into dust within a few seconds. No, you two are going to just talk to them about joining us. If they say no, just flee. A looked at them with a firm stare. I do not want you three to do anything stupid if they want to have a fight. If they are S-class, I highly doubt that they don't have the power to back it up. Clearing his throat, A spoke again, so this is going to be your first S-ranked mission, find and persuade Naruto Uzumaki and Itachi Uchiha to join Kumo. If not, just leave them be and run away if they want a fight. Am I clear? Hi Rika Jessima, the trio shouted. Good, then you are dismissed. The group nodded and left the office. A sat there quietly for a moment before grunting towards the window. B, how long are you going to stay out there and listen into my conversation? From outside of the window, Killer B showed up and smiled at his brother. Yo, bro, he greeted. Do you think that idea is great? Sending dem kids after those two is like putting their heads on a silver plate, yo. I know what I'm doing. Those two kids won't be willing to hurt others that aren't after their heads. After a minute, A added. Hopefully. I hope you're right, because even with Yujito there, that Naruto kid will put up a big fight. B nodded to himself. He then took out a notepad and a pen, starting to write lyrics in it. A shook his head at his brother's odd antics, but he smiled all the same. If things go right, he'll have not 1 but 2 new members for Kumo. If worse comes to worse, he may end up with 3 dead ninjas. His other plan will also start now too. He may have to send a few people to Konoha to negotiate a few new terms, seeing as the person who he usually talks to is gone. With Itachi was cooking dinner along with the cats in the hideout for his family. The teen sighed. It had been about a week since Naruto left, and there has been no word from him in the past 3 days. Now Itachi wasn't worried for Naruto, he knew his partner could handle himself. He was just worried that he lost the piece of paper needed to communicate. Just as he was about to keep on thinking of how an irresponsible person Naruto can be, he heard a noise coming from his pocket. The whistling sound the paper makes when it wants to make contact with other people. Drying his hands, Itachi took it out and saw the characters for translate, fix, and sort appear on the paper. The paper lit up before calming down. Suddenly words appeared on it and Itachi was surprised to see that the words were clear. Yo Itachi. Did the fix on the paper work out? Are the words written out better? Yes, I'm surprised you were able to fix the paper's grammar. How were you able to fix this thing? I had help. That made Itachi frown. Why do I not like the sound of that? You can say that I got into an incident recently, news about it will probably reach you soon. Why do I feel afraid to hear about it? Don't worry about it. I have, made an ally of sorts. He's the one who fixed the paper. Itachi frowned again. This doesn't feel right at all. How can we trust him? He's sort of stuck with me, for a long time. That made the Uchiha sigh. He really couldn't do much about it, so he'll have to trust Naruto's choice on this thing. Okay then, I'll let you settle that. How close are you to Uzushio? About that, I had gained some information about the place. There is a place in Uzushio that wasn't destroyed, problem is I need 2 keys for it. So far I only have one. And the other one? It currently resides in Iwagakure. I need to go there and get it. What will you do after that? I'll stop by there and pick up both Mikoto-sama and Sasuke, then we'll all head to Uzushio. Itachi thought about it. That sounded like a good plan. All he had to do was wait for Naruto. He then slowly nodded his head after thinking about it. Fine. Hurry up please. I need to head out myself. I need to train and start setting up the spy networks that we wanted to establish. Great. I'll get in touch again soon. Next time let me talk to Mikoto-sama as well. I think she's going to worry about me too much if I don't. This will take me about a week to do, if no problems occur. Fine, see you soon partner. Itachi's paper had the ink disappear. He stood up and grabbed the plate of food that the cats had set up. Thank you. Itachi then walked towards the room where Sasuke and Mikoto were staying. Opening the door he saw Mikoto reading a story to Sasuke, to keep him calmed down. With the memories still fresh in the young boy's mind, Itachi was a tiny bit happy that Sasuke didn't shut himself off. Okayasan, Itachi greeted. Both Mikoto and Sasuke looked up. Itachi gave them their food. Thank you Itachi, Mikoto smiled. Sasuke had a forced one on his face, but he was grateful for the food. He was hungry after all. Naruto had gotten in contact with me. He said he'll be here to pick you up in a week, and then head to Yuzu. Oh. Why will it take a week? He needs to head off to Iwa first. Apparently he needs something from there to get to the place in Yuzu you will stay in. I see. He also wants to talk to you the next time he makes contact. Mikoto smiled softly at him. Okay. Hyuga compound, Hisashi Hyuga, the twin brother of the current head of the main house's leader Hayashi Hyuga, was sitting in a small room. He was a man who was currently the one in charge of the branch family. He had long brown hair that framed his face and a well-built body. He had milky white eyes that seemingly had no pupils. He was not blind, far from it actually. He had one of the 3 great Jujutsus in the elemental nations, the Byakugan. When a user puts chakra into their eyes, the Byakugan would allow the user to see in 360 degrees up to a certain distance. It varies per person. It also allowed a person to see the tenketsus of a person. Around his forehead was a white wrapping, that concealed the cage bird seal that was placed on each branch member. Currently the man was staring at a piece of paper in front of him. On the paper were just a few words that had shocked him. Hello Hisashi-sama. It is I, Naruto Uzumaki, we need to talk. Now the moment he heard a piece of paper making a slight whistling noise he became suspicious. When words started to appear, he became wary. When that one sentence showed itself to him, he became intrigued. Taking a pen he decided on what to write. If you really are Naruto Uzumaki, tell me what did you promise me a year ago on the 3rd of July last year? Hisashi waited for the answer. If the person contacting him was really who he claimed to be, they should know what they spoke about on that specific day. When the response came back, Hisashi couldn't help but smile. I promised you that I would give your son Niji a few lessons on channeling elemental chakra for his next birthday on the same day. He kept asking me about that when I saw him that day. That statement was all he needed to know here/read. The only person who knew about that promise to help teach his son Niji how to manipulate elemental chakra and start doing things outside of the clan arts was Naruto. Slowly Hisashi made sure that the room was sealed off, and took precaution to make sure that even people with the Byakugan by activating a small seal that made the entire room into something similar to a chakra flare. It was subtle, but anyone with a Byakugan would get blinded for a few short seconds. It was something that Minato had made for the entire Hyuga clan. It was an anti-spying seal. Hisashi decided to answer. Naruto-san, can you tell me what had happened? I'm lost about everything. Do you have time? I can miss one training session. This is going to be a long story. So Naruto told Hisashi all he had been through up to the point of his escape, as well as his theories about what is happening to the Hokage. Hisashi took it all in, carefully listening to the younger man. He can see the truth in what he said to him. The Hokage going crazy, the framing of himself and Itachi, and all the bad things that have been happening to his own family. Hisashi-sama, I have a request for you. What is it that you need, Naruto-san? I need some eyes and ears in Konoha. I need info being transferred to me. What are you asking me to do? Just tell me what is going on there. The current events of Konoha. I need to know if anything goes wrong, so I can react accordingly. I also need you to watch over Kushina-sama and the girls. Hisashi thought about it for a moment, but he already knew his answer. Of course. I'll help you out, Naruto, you're my friend after all. Thank you. Don't worry though. You'll have some help for this, although I still need to ask Tsum-san and Tsunade-san. Hisashi raised an eyebrow when Naruto didn't respond for a few moments. He then laughed when he saw the next set of words. Sorry about that, I just remembered that I haven't told Obeiken and Ero Sensei. Kami-sama, they are going to kill me if I don't talk to them soon. I'll speak to you within the next week and get a weekly report. I need to talk to another helper next. Thank you again, Hisashi-sama. Oh, and a fair warning. Chances are since I'm not there Kyuumo will try to do something. I was one of the few reasons why they were so amicable with us and the reason Konoha and Kyuumo were at peace. I was the one who had to make A agree to the whole thing. Hokage-sama won't be able to react to A's plans fast enough, or he won't listen to me. The paper then stopped reacting and Hisashi shook his head. He'll take that news to heart, but for now he has to watch over women and his own family. He'll need to prepare if that news means anything. Naruto put away the piece of paper and frowned. He knew he would have to talk to Tsunade soon, as well as Jiraiya, but he wants to put that off for now. He doesn't need his head bitten off just yet. He also needs to speak to Kushina again too. Hopefully, nothing wrong will happen with them and Yuri won't go blabbing to Minato. The blonde then reached behind him and pulled out the quill blade from a holder on the back of his waist. He examined it for a bit and wondered if he'd be able to master it too. You want to start your training on that thing? Naruto asked as he appeared, sitting next to the blonde. I'd like to learn soon, Naruto replied. Do you know how useful it would be to be able to write seals on the fly like that? Only just using chakra? I know very well, I'm a master with that blade after all. Naruto then turned to his descendant of sorts. Although training will take a long period of time. Not only will you need to learn how to draw chakra into the blade and stabilize it into writing the seal Madare, you'll also need to learn how to change the blade from sword to quill form in an instant. It would be such a shame if you could not do that and then die in battle. I know. He then turned towards Naruto. How long did it take for you to master this thing? Naruto took the blade from Naruto and thought to himself for a few moments before speaking. A few months was all it took, and that is going fast compared to others who had gotten a similar weapon. They took a few years or so to get everything down like me. Although, I was considered the smartest person in my age group, so that could have been factored in there somewhere. The red-headed spirit then turned to Naruto. Let's get you working. If you're really wanting to get to the vault, you're going to have to face Kuga for his duster. What can you tell me about him? I won't say much, for it's a challenge so to speak. To prove your worth, although I'll give you a hint at what he excels at. What is it? He was nicknamed the Buso Kiba, the armed Fang. That should give you enough to guess what he is good at. Naoto then stood up and threw the sword at Naruto. Now, let's get your training started. We have a week to get you proficient at using the quill blade, and during this time I'm going to train you to write like a doctor such as myself as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Guys, make sure to help the author by visiting the link in the description. This is Fox Sage, and I'm signing off.